Hello, everyone. I'm joined by Hydratus today, so we're gonna be having a hobby chat while I work on this. He's a member on the Discord, and I had been talking about just playing games, and I used to leave the dead soldiers on the field, and he had this one modeled, and I always thought it was a great idea. Like if you were building I think of Necromunda at first, but if you have a squad, build them all in like standing poses and like fighting, and then rebuild them all, but as dead ones. So like if someone dies, you put the injured unit in, and he's all like whatever different injuries. And he just happened to post this one on the Discord because we had talked about it, and I thought it would be making for a great paint over. It's kind of got like this moody feel and everything, so I'm gonna see what I can do with it. And now over to Adriana so he can say something.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Great to be here. Long time viewer, first time caller. Uh,
Perfect.
I You don't really have a pseudonym, so I guess I'll just call you artist.
Oh yeah, I'm Scott, but yeah, you can just call me artist or what. You can call
Yeah,
me Scott. I don't care.
Scott, I will never remember that. I am so
Yeah,
sorry.
then don't worry. You just
Yeah, we're using our made up names.
it's only one person, so you can just speak directly.
Yeah,
Avoid
I mean
it.
it's me.
Yeah, me. Hey, you. Um, what?
So,
Okay, what is this first off? Because I know,
mhm.
like conversion.
Yes, it is the dead body is actually one of the markers that you can buy a pack of them from a company called Footsore Miniatures. It's for their sort of mythic Greek war game called Mortal Gods. They have like a bunch of dead slingers and stuff,
Oh,
which
that's
always makes a good objective marker, really, right?
yeah. And it's not that I've been looking that much, but I haven't seen that many that I would just pop into mind when I think of like dead units. You know what I mean? So
I
that's
mean, there's very few things like you can't really buy a pack of wounded casualty models from like the big names. Like Games Workshop doesn't
yeah.
do here's a pack of dead, X
They would
faction
sell
or
too, I
something. Yeah,
think.
it would sell pretty well, I imagine. Yeah, I mean, you find a couple of dead bodies in like whenever they do the limited run objective marker set,
Oh yeah.
or something along that lines. There will always be a dead body or two in there. But wounded figures, things like that, are really relatively rare, especially for buying as is, so to speak.
Hey, King Crimson, thanks for making it. Wolf Lord Lewis, thanks for making it, guys. Appreciate it.
So yeah, and as for the gunner model, that is mostly Games Workshop Age of Sigma parts
Okay.
with a third party head and a third party haversack.
Okay.
Mostly, I've built a whole unit of these guys for Oathmark because, well, sometimes you have an aesthetic in mind and you really want to get that on the tabletop.
Yeah.
So you've got to build it and get the right parts.
What I don't know much about what is Oathmark. Like what's the
Uh, oh,
Oh no, go.
uh, sorry for cutting you off there.
No.
Oathmark is a mass battle game, very much in the lieu of old Warhammer Fantasy. It's rank and file. You have big blocks of units.
Oh.
As units take casualties, you reduce the number, so you see the units grow smaller and smaller on the field.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got the whole don't get charged in the flank, don't get charged in the rear, that kind of thing, which was sort of phased out a couple of years ago in popularity, I think,
Yeah.
because at least I saw this in the hobby over the last couple of years. There was much more of a push towards things like skirmish games, easier to transport, easier to carry, smaller
Yeah, saw
time
that too.
investment.
And that's part of
Um,
me getting back into it. Wolf Lord Lewis says there are sometimes bodies on bases.
yeah.
Yeah, and I still don't see too. It's almost surprises me because like the 40K world is so like violent, and I mean I
Mm.
know the aesthetic. They're not going to go all kind of gory, but you could still do some cool. I just think they would tap that more. I guess.
Oh, certainly. It's just that they are part of like a scenic display base for a character model or something like that.
Yeah,
You can't buy them separately to sort of customize your own, which I
yeah,
think is a shame. But yes, Wolflord is 100% correct. In fact, today, when they revealed the new Dark Master Be'lakor model, there are two great dead bodies on that base,
Oh,
depending on
were
whether
there?
you.
That's funny. I didn't see it, and
Yeah.
I haven't caught many of those, and I have to start. Do they have like a like? I know they show them, but is there like a regular release day? Like, do they show everything Wednesdays or?
Uh, they've started a new line. Games Workshop's now running like new model Mondays. So every Monday they will show off a unreleased model in full, basically.
Oh, okay, good to know because I was like, well, on some of the shows, maybe we'll talk about, you know what I mean, like kind of what some of the games come out, or in particular Games Workshop, but I like all kinds
Mm,
of games. So that's why
yeah.
this Oathmark thing is kind of interesting because I liked see when I used to you brought up the skirmish type game, and
Mm,
that's kind of why I'm getting back into it now. Is that it was a skirmish game? I'm like, well, I can paint less models, and I always loved like a Necromunda type game where your guys, rank up. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's like, okay, I'll play that. And so, but I used to always love, the other games like the rank and file. When they used to be taking the units off and you're doing the
Yeah.
battle and their wheel chart, you're wheeling your
hmm
whole brick of guys into another one.
Yeah.
So it's good that some of those are still out there like that.
Oh, I think currently the again, I'm not 100% active on Twitter and things, so
Yeah,
viewers, if you know more, please do feel free to
yeah,
correct me.
yeah.
I think one of the more popular ones that's currently got a lot of attention that is a rank and file game will be the Song of Ice and Fire game,
Oh,
where you buy boxes of troops and then you remove them, one by one. It's just
yeah.
that their ranks are made up of like four models, and I've played it. My friend has like every single product in that game line, and it's quite a
Okay.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. That's
There-
good. I
I mean,
I haven't played much of anything, so it's always cool to hear stuff like
hmm,
this, just for me to get more familiar with the
hmm,
market. You know what I mean? And just because I
yeah.
love that stuff, I might pick one out.
Oh yeah, no, certainly. It's a very interesting game, and it's got because obviously to differentiate itself, each game has a gimmick of some kind.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
like Warhammer Fantasy or 40k, sorry, Age of Sigmar, they really push the what's come to be called by the community the your guys narrative,
okay,
where you can customize your characters, you can customize your units. They have different upgrades, different war gear, so you can really personalize it and like tell a story as you're playing the game.
yeah,
uh, Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones obviously doesn't really do that. It's like, here's the units you have, here's the factions. It's actually following the books more than the show, so you've got a lot more variety and cool stuff
yeah.
happening. Like the Free Folk have just got into Mammoth model, and it looks amazing.
Okay,
But the main gimmick there is, in addition to sort of the battlefield where you've got your units marching and can trying to outflank each other and seize objectives, you also have a thing called a tactics board where you have two models in your army who represent essentially non-combatants like political figures, the
yeah,
royals, figures like that. And every turn you can choose whether you want to activate one of your combat units first, try to seize the
yeah,
initiative, dominate the battlefield, or you can try to activate one of your political units. And the tactics board has 5 zones. And when you gain control of these zones, they have different effects. Like one of your units gets a free move. One of your
yeah.
units can restore lost wounds. You
See, I
can,
love I love that idea because it's always used to remind me of like in the historical type battles or whatever back in the day,
mm,
they would literally bring a whole retinue with them. And they would have all their
yes.
people and all the stuff with them. So it was always like, man, I wish there was a way that that would almost be in the game. And that's the other thing I always think of. Like, I wish there was more civilian models. Like, it would be so
Mm,
cool, like, especially Necromunda, where you could have them around, or just 40K
mm.
civilians, or even like that. It's like, if you had your fantasy battle, how cool would it be to have your own little retinue camp in the back for no other purpose than there's your retinue?
Yeah, also makes a really good objective
Very true.
because something
Oh
that's
yeah,
become
because that's what they
yeah
used to do.
yeah also became a lot more sort of evident and clear in games is the push away from the you're just fighting a battle to the last man standing. There's a
Yeah,
greater push for objective tactical based play
I could see that.
because probably one of the big things is it helps limit game time.
Oh
You
yeah,
avoid the fact that a game can just stretch on forever. You can say
yeah.
6 turns,
See,
full stop.
when I was younger, I didn't care if it was some 5 hour game, but now it's like, uh oh. King Crimson
Mm,
says, "I need the lore to be interested." And the smaller skirmish stuff is just easier to get going and switch armies if you want stuff like that. I completely agree,
Hmm.
King. That's kind of how I see it when I was like, all right, Necromunda.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I'm totally down for that as well, and that's why I enjoyed Kill Team, or any game that's like, here's a smaller personalized skirmish version of like the main game, so you can have
Hmm.
fun with that, or
And
the
I love the
strange
big ones
inverse.
too, but it
Hmm.
is the time thing, like
Yeah.
depending and what's going on. So it's good that they have them
Mhm.
all. I'm glad that like even Games Workshop is doing more like Necromunda and Blood Bowl and all that.
Mm, yeah. Games Workshop actually did a little bit like an inverse thing where they started with a skirmish and then moved into the mass battle game because they've got the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings game,
You
which
play quite a bit of games, do you? Or you try
I
out
play
different
a
things?
lot. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I as as a freelance writer, I keep abreast of a variety of things,
No, that's
and
good.
you
And
got
I
to know
know.
how
And so I was
things
going to
work.
talk about because I had you write some stuff for me that I can't even. I got so busy with
Mhm.
paintovers that it's still all on the
Mhm.
back burner. And what's funny is
Yeah.
there's like I probably one third of it I still didn't even read, and I'm like, oh, it's got all this cool stuff, and I'm like, I even went this week. I was like, no, don't read it because you got to stay focused. And I read some of that stuff, and you had some great concepts in it. Like when he wrote it, I was like, oh, I'm like, that's a great idea, and I want to build it. And I'm like, do not get distracted. I'm like, that's my long term plan to like grow something. But I'm like, don't get distracted because I read it a while ago, and I was like, wow, there's some really good stuff in there. And I was like, don't start because then I'll be like, oh, let me just draw this, and I'll draw for this, and I'll start on a picture, and I'm like, no, just stay focused for
Yeah.
now. But yeah, so
Oh,
you and what um writing? What kind of stuff do you mostly like to write?
anything really creative. I mean, as my King Crimson there, I started Kill Team, and now I have three 1,200 point armies. Don't we all? It's the gateway drug to Games Workshop, frankly.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I enjoy writing any fiction stuff. I mean, obviously, that's not a luxury that I can choose what I want to write in terms
hmm,
of the job market. So in my past, I've done technical writing for engineering companies. I've done some
yeah,
journalism for defense companies, but creative writing's like really my passion. It's what I love, and I've been really lucky to I actually got my foot in the door, so to speak, and I've got some things out there
yeah,
in tabletop war games, in um, RPGs that's been published.
yeah. Oh, good, 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 good. So that's cool. I know. What are you on? So are you're on Twitter? Obviously, do you
Yep.
do Facebook, Instagram, any of those?
Yeah, yeah. On Twitter, it's Hydriatus, just as you've posted here.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I've got Hydriatus there. That is not quite as active as everything else,
No, but yeah, it's
mostly
just in
because
case. Yeah.
Facebook isn't as much of a reactive platform, really. Whereas in Twitter, you can
It's
engage
really
in
not.
discussion,
I haven't
conversations.
got the hang at all of Facebook. I mean, I only have
Hmm.
really a business account for it, but
Yeah.
that's something I got to learn a little more myself. But that's like due time.
Wolf Lord Lewis having 7,500 points of Space Wolves. With a name like that, I'm not surprised.
What? Wow, he does have that. That's crazy. How
That
cool.
is like, yeah, no. I've had bad experiences with big games of 40k myself. That's why I've kind of been burned by it. But that's mostly been like the big participation events in Games Workshop stores. Like
Oh yeah.
I've never
See,
had my friends over and gone
okay.
like, we're
See,
going to
I
play a
only ever
massive
really played
apocalypse
with my
battle.
friends, and I
Hmm.
just love the friends thing. King Crimson. I now have three 1,250 point armies. King Crimson. Just out of curiosity, what armies do you have?
Interesting thing though, my friends have played mega games. It's still a popular story that it was about a couple of years before I met them. They played because they were huge Lord of the Rings fans. So when the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings game came out, they
Yeah.
immediately got into that. They played the Battle of Helm's Deep with the actual numbers.
Oh, are you kidding me?
They didn't have enough miniatures, so they did the whole cycling, recycling, dead models things. But it took them like an entire weekend.
Mr. Spats, thanks for joining me. And I remember your comment. So that was good. We will eventually get to one for you because I appreciate you stopping by and checking it out. It really helps.
But yeah. mega battles. I should probably look into it.
Yeah, keep
I
going. You
don't
said they.
think I've got a big army. I don't actually think I currently have a big army like that. As I've gotten older, it's like I kind of want the smaller scale things. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I've got a Necromunda gang, which is a chaos cult using Blackstone Fortress models because
yeah.
those are
That's Chaos Cult for
beautiful.
Necromunda is like. What's funny that I chose Enforcers, but I think it had to do with Artist Empire. I wanted to put the logo on big shields, but
Fair.
Chaos Gang is always the thing, and the reason why it's a Chaos Gang is it's always a little twisted. Like I always love when I was already into 40K, but then when the Gene Stealers and that came out with how the Gene
Mm.
Stealers used to be like kind of a mix between chaos and Gene Stealer cult type
Yep.
thing, that always like sprung to my mind when I thought Necromunda. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
dude, you could totally see that like springing up there, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I think I've got a white dwarf somewhere with the original Gene Stealer cult rules, where like rather than trucks, they had like limousines with like
Yeah, yeah, that's
miniguns.
what I hate. Yeah, I think I have that
So
white
dope.
dwarf right here. They had the limos. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah, and there's like a converted picture of like just a Gene Stealer with like a demon sword, and I was like,
Yeah.
that seems unnecessary.
Let me crop this.
What? Wolf Lord Lewis, you have 7,500 points of Space Wolves and one Forge World model. Wow. Do you not even have like Lehman Russ at that point?
This one is his. Let me see. This one was his. I did this paint over. I love that
Hmm.
thing. That's so cool.
Oh, was it his Siege Dreadnought?
No, this one. It should come up here in a minute. I think I'm ahead of you on chat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this one.
I've forgotten the damn name of the thing, the
It's not
flyer,
the
yes.
Thunderhawk, but it's. I
No,
forget what the.
oh man, we all wish we had a Thunderhawk.
Yeah, it looks like one almost.
No, it's the half a Ceratus assault ram cut in half. I think it's the Storm Wolf or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we got some active chat. That's cool. Speaking of Wolf Lord Rowe,
Mhm.
got a new video up. I seen some of his. I should watch. I've been so far behind that I'm choosy on what I listen to because some of the books I'm going to listen to, and I just like to be surprised.
Mm.
King Crimson says I have Marines, Necron, and Orcs. Yeah, so like Marines and Orcs I loved, and then the new Necron models really did draw me into Necrons.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
cannot. I used to be like, and now I was like, wow, they got some great designs and stuff on them.
yeah. The Necron's got a really good glow up. I mean, again, like back when I started the hobby, they had three models.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
had the Warrior, the Lord, and the Destroyer, which was just like a tripod cannon. And then their next major release was like, oh, here they are as a full army.
yeah. Mr.
And
Spats, I love the old Gene Stealer pimps. They did have a slight pimp attitude to them back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, these.
Stormfang gunship. Thank you, Wolf Lord.
Yes, thank you. See, that's the worst thing. So I'm doing a podcast talking 40K and I don't pronounce the names right and I don't know any of them. Like, okay, I got to start drilling them in to learn them all so that I can speak with some
It's
knowledge so I don't sound like a goofball.
it's no, it's fine. There's so much that as long as you can describe it, people will just
And
fill it in
they
because it's
changed, I was used
ridiculous.
to like Space Marine Tactical Squad, Space Marine Devastator, and now it's all like intercessors. Like, which intercessors? I'm like, what is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Like,
that's a thing. Like they're
yeah,
cool
and I don't
names, but
mind.
it's
I
just
know.
like
Yeah.
140 quid to drop on 30. Yeah, that's fair. Forge World is an extravagance. And then you've got the elitism of Horus Heresy. Ugh. I say having a Horus Heresy army.
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, that is what it is.
Hmm. Had some great times actually with at Horus Heresy tournaments though. Those are always ridiculous.
See, I never did any of that. Like, I've been
Hmm.
to an event before, like never participated or play. You know what I mean? Just be like, hey,
Hmm.
a lot of cool. Like, they were cool for the armies and stuff that
Yeah.
were around. That is like phenomenal to see everyone's stuff in
Hmm.
person.
Oh yeah, and it's very different from like your local meta.
Yeah,
Excuse me. So I normally play with my circle of friends, and it's like,
yeah,
yeah, let's go to a tournament, and you see like armies and builds you've never run into before.
yeah.
Um, I always tended to go more towards narrative, more fun style tournaments.
Yeah, and
Like I
I
never
would
go
see that
to
would
the
probably be
competitive
more my
ones.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I went to one hosted by oh damn, the name escapes me, but it's one of the Horus Heresy podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, they hosted one down in Wales, in Cardiff, and I traveled down for the day, and it was really sorry the weekend because it was a 2-dayer, because of course
Yeah.
it is, and it was great fun. And especially because when you're playing in that sort of environment where people do want to win because you're playing a game, but there are also people
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
in it for the story. Um, Especially because myself, I'm very much more of a sort of narrative gamer where my win draw loss ratio is atrocious. I lose the
Yeah.
majority of my games. My
But
armies aren't built like with a
no.
meta or a goal. It's like, I think this will look cool. I want to do this.
And I see, like, that's me. Like, I would almost play the game, and like, especially a game like Necromunda, it's like I
Mm,
give like a personality to my units, and they will do things according to whatever imagined personality I have. So I don't even
nice.
care. It's like I'm detached from my units. Like, oh, they're gonna do something crazy here, and I don't know if it's gonna work out for them, but they're sure gonna do
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? It was like, and so it was
Mm,
like you have your own internal story in your head, and that's kind of what you're playing for. I'm like, oh, win,
yeah.
as long as I'm entertained, I don't really care about the win or loss. It's just like what
Yeah.
happened, you know?
Yeah. And I actually found it really not touching's the right word, but I felt at a point of pride that in like one of the follow-up podcast episodes they did about the event, when they talked to two of the competitors, it was two of my opponents, and they did name my army, our games, as some of
Yeah,
those that stayed in their mind as being very evocative and very cool.
yeah, that's
I
cool.
lost those games very badly. Just for those curious, I play Horus Heresy Iron Warriors. Um, I play them as the opposite of how the rules say they should play, but the lore supports it. So in the rules, the Iron Warriors have a lot of buffs and benefits to being attackers in a siege, storming
Yeah,
things, artillery.
yep,
Um, I remember the part of the lore where the Iron Warriors were meant to garrison the majority of the Imperium. So
yeah,
my army of 3,000 points has over a third of its points in fortifications, trench lines, bunkers, everything,
yeah, yeah.
and
And
just
so,
and just
no,
infantry sat in them. So I never caused a lot of damage to my enemies, but they all found it really cool to be playing an army storming the trenches and having like artillery
yeah,
shells
and
fall
that's what
around
makes
them.
it fun. Yeah, and
Mm,
that's not going to be the most competitive type thing. So it's like
mm.
you're just not, by the very nature of it, you're not going to win a ton. But it's still, that's something cool, because like if I'm going to play and someone has something funky like that, it's like, oh, that's cool, you know?
Yeah. And that being said, though, there's always something that comes up, and you're a bit like, "Well, I that feels a bit cheesy to me," but fair enough. I had a
Hmm.
friend who went to the tournament with a full knight army, and
Oh,
he was the only one there with a full knight army. It is a legal list in 30K, and honestly, I was just like, "Yeah, if I play against him, I've got nothing that can scratch him." Well,
yeah,
that's a lie. I did play against the knight, and I had 3 dreadnoughts manage to charge one and just wreck it in a turn, but
yeah,
that was pretty much it. But again, you get what you put out of these games. If you go in there wanting to win, you'll build your army in a certain way, and that's a valid way to play. It's just have your hyper competitive tournaments, have your narrative more
yeah,
laid back
yeah. Just whatever
tournaments.
someone
Episode,
wants,
yeah.
let them get. Yeah, for sure. That's how I am.
Mhm.
Oh wow, we're for this. There are 11 Space Wolf units that are called Wolf something. Yeah, you don't want to miss
Yeah,
out.
it's
Mr.
ridiculous.
Spats, Space Wolves are very fun. I'm a Blood Angel player myself. Yeah, Blood
Blood
Angel,
angels are blonde.
and I always liked. I think it like goes back to some of the old White Dwarf covers where it would be
Mhm.
the guy all in gold. There was like the Blood Angels all red, and then it'd be like the big
Dante.
gold, and yeah, and it was
No,
like
it is Dante. I think Spat
I
will
don't know
correct me
if
in a
it was
minute.
Dante at that time.
No, it's Captain Tycho, isn't it? He's
I
got like a
can't
multi melt.
remember.
He's got a combi melter, and he was like one of the heroes of Armageddon. I think it's
And I
Tycho.
always Blood Angels was always an army. I'm like in that rich red color. I'm like,
Mm,
yeah, they look really striking on the battlefield. I dug
mm.
those. Crusade is really good for narrative stuff.
Yes, Crusade. It's the newest sort of way to play they added in 30K, which is almost like a small growing campaign where you write up a small army list and then your units and characters accumulate battle honors and scars and wounds. It's not as
Oh,
detailed.
okay.
It's not as detailed as Necromunda.
No, but it's
Um,
still like a
it
little
doesn't have to be.
flavor.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, it really does benefit if you don't randomize things.
yeah.
Like for example, my commander is a Cornate Knight, and they got like they don't have like a leadership bubble anymore. Their speakers are broken. I was like, that doesn't affect me whatsoever because
Yeah.
my knights don't give a damn about like leadership stuff. So we traded it in for like a broken like leg piece, and that was
Oh
kind of
yeah,
fun.
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Some of the options don't quite make sense, but as they're releasing new codices, all of them have like customized stuff. So now, from the Space Marine one, if your commander dies, you can stick him in a dreadnought,
I didn't
so you
even
can
know.
actually
So I
follow a
mean,
full career.
we've never. I mean, we spoke briefly, but I didn't
Hmm.
know. I didn't know you were that. Not that you're that big into them, but you know your stuff about these. So this is cool.
I'm a hopeless cause. I'm a lost. No, you know,
That's
I'm
good.
a
I
nerd.
love having everyone
Um,
around. Like,
yeah.
like Wolf Lord knows a lot about it
Mhm.
and all that. King Crimson, so everyone knows. And I'm like, okay, I gotta catch up on something. And you're all are nice about whatever helping out with that stuff. So I
Ooh,
appreciate it.
that's a cool thing, Lewis, the Wolf Lord. That every round, rolls the right result. One of his one of his chapter masters just goes feral and charges the enemy. That's nice.
That's kind of a cool fact.
It's Crusade is interesting because I find it's sort of like a natural evolution of this classic thing. Um, Way back when it started out, I don't know if you've heard of it. The A Tale of Four Gamers.
If I did, it's very briefly.
Mhm. It's a classic sort of like feature article series they had in White Dwarf way back when, where four of the staff would be like, "We are playing.
Oh yeah, yeah. That I was
We're gonna
thinking of
start
something
new
different.
armies."
I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah. We're gonna start new armies, and then every month we're adding a new unit. So we start with 500 points, and then build up to 750, and then play each other. So
yeah.
Crusade's kind of like a natural extension of that. It's also very similar to um, a more refined version of Path to Glory. Have you heard
Okay.
of that one?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, Path to Glory, the sort of the Chaos player mini set where you start with a champion of Chaos and randomized like
See
minions, and it sort
that.
of develops through a campaign.
So yeah, my favorite was what was it called? Realm of Darkness. When no
Mm,
Realm of Chaos. Now I can't
yeah,
remember the name. The two books where you used to make the war band in Chaos, and they would all be. You could get it would be like an
yeah,
old school war band, but you could get a plasma gun if you rolled right.
that's Realm of Chaos. That's
Yeah,
the classic stuff.
that's what I
Back
was
in the
all.
days when Warhammer Fantasy Battles and 40k were in the same universe.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is cool. I just love the mood in this picture.
Mm. Oh yeah, no. I'd say this is kind of an example of when you have inspiration and you stick to it, just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the rifleman that came about of my attempts, not entirely successful because I got the wrong helmet. Attempts to recreate the Vinci faction from Rise of Legends, which is
Okay.
an old Microsoft strategy video
Yep.
game. Really fun, really good music. It's like no one remembers it anymore. Um,
Yeah.
they actually need more like sort of the Germanic stormtrooper helmets.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the kind of thing like the artwork has, but I went with this. Also, in the original game, they were red, but as I said, I've got a Chaos Knight army of Khorne. I was like, I am done with red. I need
Yeah,
another
yeah.
color for a bit.
For sure.
But
Like if you're doing a
yeah.
whole army of something, it's like I need a different
Mm.
color or something.
And that was, that was sort of like the unit itself. And then I was like, okay, what's the opposing force? Because if I'm going to be playing Oathmark, I'm introducing it to my friends and stuff. They don't want to invest in something without giving it a shot. In the past, I volunteered for games companies to run demos
Yep.
in gaming stores and stuff. I actually worked for Megacon. Well, I say worked, volunteered. There we go,
Yeah, yeah,
for Megacon Games to promote their game Mercs, which is like a very sort of another skirmish
yeah.
sci-fi near future game. It's a lot more near future than the far ridiculous science fantasy 40k is. So I'm used to having multiple factions so people can come by and try things out. So I was like talking to my gaming group, and I was like, so what would you do to make an equivalent of a starter box? Because a starter box, you have two asymmetrical armies to show off like different aesthetics and different tactics and
Yeah,
different play
yeah,
styles. So this one, my as I'm calling them the Vinci, because Vinci and Venice and
yeah,
everything, is going to be very ranged. So it's going to be like the in the rules they're like crossbowmen and archers. I've just used guns for them because
yeah.
why
Just for
not?
the
So it's
change of
very much
yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
what
it's
I
very
would do
ranged
too.
heavy. It's got artillery. It's going to have like a big block of spearmen. And then I was like, okay, so what makes a good opposing force? Something probably more fantastical.
Yeah,
So I looked
yeah. You
around
want
and I
that
decided,
contrast. It's the same as
yeah,
art. You can't. Yeah, it's just
yeah. So I went with, oh, why not make it like mythic Greece? So
yeah,
big blocks of infantry, cavalry, monsters, to counter the war machines. Do the whole sort of flesh versus
yeah.
steel kind of aesthetic
Absolutely.
choice, and that led me sort of to and there's another video game reference there, Greedfall, which is all about colonizing and settling this world and shooting the locals and the historic precedents of the
Yeah,
cruelties
yeah.
of colonization, and that's where this kind of image came about from that.
Right on.
It's the invasion sort of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's where you got to pick your flavor from. Get
Yeah,
inspiration from wherever.
and it's also interesting since bringing this all the way back, Oathmark, the way it is written, it is miniature agnostic. So like
Okay.
they do have their own game line, but the rulebook itself says like feel free to use your own miniatures,
Yeah, I
customize
can
your
see
kingdom
that.
to look as
That's a
long
yeah.
yeah, as long as you're using the rules, it's fine. And it has like a list like here's what size the bases should be. Apart from that, go nuts as long as you can easily point out and identify things on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So people are plotting tournaments or events for
Yeah.
when the current period is over and it's safe to see each other again. And
If you One thing, if you are watching, please, please, please hit the like button. That really helps with all the algorithm stuff and whatnots, and I would appreciate that. Mr. Spats says Realm of Chaos is fun. Yeah, that was a classic. That's what I have to get the books. I went and looked online, and like the original one, they were offering for like $200. I'm like 200 or like close to 300. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I guess, and I only seen one version. I was like, So I've been looking. I'm like, and I can't find my original, and it's really bums me out. So I
mm,
was like, man, I was looking, and I was like, the $200. I'm like, holy cow.
yeah,
Yeah.
the limited edition stuff or old out of print stuff, it's horrible.
So one day I'll get to
Mm.
come across that.
Yes, Wolflord. Yes, Wolflord. Just British Empire historically, with all the terribleness associated with that.
There, we'll get
But yeah, Oathmarks, as I said, is quite fun. They have a very nice. You build your army list before you build your army. It's very focused on campaign play.
Okay.
And the first thing you do in it is you build a kingdom, and you can mix and
Oh,
match races any way you want.
oh, they got me.
Uh,
As soon as I'm building a
yeah,
kingdom, I'm in. I've got it.
yeah,
I got one. I got an
and
idea.
it's done as you've got humans, dwarves, elves, orcs, and goblins, and one of the expansion books has, of course, added undead,
Yep.
and you can mix and match all of them if you want. You have like 9 territory slots, and you can put different territories in there. So you can put like a human town, elf town. The main units in your army are what is your capital, what race capital do you have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then that's where the majority of units come from. But you can easily mix things up, so you can have some vampires in your dwarven kingdom, if you
Yeah.
have like a very
Okay.
clear
Interesting.
idea in your
Yeah.
head.
I see.
So it's
Huh.
it's a very flexible, really fun system. Again, not really had a chance to play it much yet, but the rules are
Yeah.
relatively simple. It's you know keeps the dice rolls low, keeps the game going. It's a very it's a simple it doesn't get too nitty gritty in the details. It's very sit
So
back, have fun.
the one, maybe I don't know, 5, 6 years ago was probably the last time I played any type of game like that, and I played. Sorry, I had to drink some water. My voice is getting a little parched. I played. What was it? War Machine, and I thought I never played. I played War Machine, I think twice now with that. But like
Which faction?
the they remind me. They're like the winter with red. They remind me of kind of
Yes, Kador,
yeah,
Russians.
Gador. So
That
and
was my faction as well.
I really liked how that game played out. I was surprised.
Mm,
So like I said, it was 5 6 years ago, and the combat was cool because the we just did a really small game, right? So maybe like
mm,
I don't know. I think they're called warjacks. A couple of those,
yes.
like a couple squads of troops and the leader. You know what I mean? So that was like that was the fight,
Yeah.
but the fights played out really well. I liked. I dug that form of game. I was like, oh okay. There's I don't know what it's like now or anything, but and I haven't. I don't know what else plays like that. I didn't know if
Mm.
Warcry was trying to go that way or something.
I don't think so. I've got the rulebook for it somewhere, but again, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. War Machine, actually, I found really fun. It doesn't have that customization options that Warhammer Fantasy 40k has, so you might struggle a bit there. But they've really added to it with like theme forces and like there's a lot more blurrying of like faction units. Like if you're playing the
Okay.
right commander, if you're playing the right commander, it'll be like, oh, you can take units from this faction in addition to this faction because they
Yeah.
have mercenary contacts or things like that. War Machine I found very good for the characters. It's very character driven. The special abilities everyone like each one of your commanders has, like the feat that your general can pull off once a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those were always interesting and fun. It was just again, it kind of fell prey to that. In previous editions, at least, it didn't really have much in the way of like sort of scenario play. It,
Gotcha.
the quickest way to win was just cast a kill, which was
Yeah.
assassinate
Oh
the enemy
yeah.
general. So
Yeah.
tactics became very there became a sort of a
Centered
very
around that.
stale meta. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now with their tournament modes and everything, they've added, oh yeah, there's things like you can't move towards two of the board edges for a turn, or like weird things happen where you have to like capture the hill. But there was always some very silly, stupid things that I remember. Like, oh no, my commander is too far from the objective this turn, and I'll lose the game. So my warjack, my
Yeah.
giant robot, has to pick them up and hurl them like it's freaking Wolverine, onto the objective,
Fastball
and
special.
yeah, and pray that doesn't kill them.
Team
Because like,
Armchair Team Armchair General, thanks for joining. Raging Heroes Cyber Wolves are pretty but pricey too.
hmm,
Raging Heroes, the game company, I assume you have it capitalized, I think, or a different game.
they're a miniatures company. They do very beautiful, very good quality resin models. They take a little bit
Oh,
of washing.
yeah.
Sometimes they come with release agent, but they have very, very fine, very stylized models. But
Oh,
unfortunately, the price tag is quite hefty.
okay. I'll still
Um,
check them out. Thanks for that because I love anything wolves and cyber. You know what I mean? My first army was space wolves. You know what I mean? So
hmm.
anything with that, and I love drawing werewolves and whatever else. So
Oh, you are gonna love the man who created Oathmark and Frostgrave and Stargrave. He's got another skirmish game coming.
yeah.
It's called Silver Bayonet, and it's hunting vampires and werewolves during the Napoleonic era as a skirmish game. Hang on. In that case, I will provide a quick link
Oh yeah. Let me check
because
a couple.
unfortunately they seem out of stock at the moment, and you know pricey, but
Yeah,
such
yeah.
beautiful models. Yeah, so that's Wolf Lord Lois. Yeah, but I believe GW says that you can put them on bigger bases. You can have your models on larger bases. You can't have them on smaller bases. Hence, display things.
Uh,
Um, Although to be fair, you're using third-party stuff, so that's never going to be run in a Games Workshop store or a Games Workshop sanctioned event. So it doesn't really matter either way, does it? Again, that's why I like third-party tournaments because you can actually see a lot more variety and creativity on display. Like, I understand the Games Workshop rule of you can only use Games Workshop parts,
yeah.
no third party when you're playing at the HQ. Most of it's probably because so they can get photos for the website and the
Yeah.
magazine White Dwarf
No,
and not have to
absolutely.
worry about getting sued or mentioned or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I do like I get it, and you totally understand, but it's like I do miss the whole, like, it was all custom scenery. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like build the
Oh,
craziest, and
so beautiful. There's so many beautiful things I remember
yeah,
from
and they
old
used
white
to just,
dwarfs.
yeah, and I think almost more than the miniatures. It's probably why I do paintovers now, because the environment is what would
Mhm.
capture me. It's like, well, where is this unit? What's
Yes.
going on? Like, what is like? Come on! And I was really just like the simple little farmhouse mission, in the first of the in the
Yeah.
Rogue Trader playing the
Oh
farmhouse.
God. Yeah.
So they,
Oh
just the
wow.
little missions like that, and you start, it's just that captured my
Mhm.
imagination, I guess.
Yeah. It and like I've got the old how to make war games terrain. Like here's how you recycle like an egg carton into
Yeah,
dragon's teeth tank traps, and it's like
and like one would be like
so much
build a Bane blade.
creativity. Yeah. Oh god, yeah. There's people making Bane blades out of like cardboard and MDF still.
Yeah,
You
and they
see
looked
stuff on
really cool. The
Instagram.
one in the
Yeah,
White
or
Dwarf, it was like
plasticard.
so
Yeah,
epic.
there's so much creativity on show and on display in this hobby, and it's just so underrated.
There
This
is
is
a
this is
ton
this is the
of,
sort this these are the sort of skills that like movie makers were making use
for
of 50
real,
years
and
ago.
that's what blows
So
me around. It
nice.
is like everything from like writers, artists, video producer,
Mm,
photographers, like, you know what I mean. You name it, like
yeah.
electronics, like whatever's in it. They're like everybody. People are animating. They're making like books, spreadsheets, programs. It's like, wow.
And now everything's just CG, and that's a little bit of a loss.
It is. It is, because even for me, I grew up by hand, and my favorite is like my personal favorite is probably, it's probably pen and ink beats out pencil just by a little bit, but I always like personally just drawing pure pencil and paper, or I used to. I think I'm like
Yeah.
digitally institutionalized now. But the look I love the most is ink, pen and ink on paper.
Mm,
I just did like
yeah.
something about, and I
Like
always
the
like
heavy
black and
shading.
white.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, certainly. Oh, that just reminds me. I was very fortunate. By pure chance, I was hanging out with a mate. We were just wandering through central London for, I don't know, we were hanging out for some reason. And we stumbled across the British Film Museum, which was down on the South Bank at that point. It's
Yeah.
since moved. And I remember we're like, yeah, you know what, let's check it out. It seems chill. We went in and there was like no one else there. And they had like the armor from the like original Excalibur movie and like parts of
Yeah.
the sets there. I was like, this is cool. And then, oh, what's over there? And we look over and they have a Ray Harryhausen exhibition on. And we're like, we are so there. And they had like all the actual like the skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts. They had like a life
Oh,
size
really?
they had
God,
life size
that's one of the
Medusa. They had
first things
Talos.
I
So
would I would
amazing
love to have
stuff.
seen that, because Jason and the Argonauts, that was one of the first things. Like a little kid, you see that, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh, what? And like, and
Mm.
until still to this day, that's one of the reasons I probably like skeleton figures. It was like just
Yes.
because of that.
Yes, practical effects are fantastic. That's why Jurassic Park still holds up.
Yeah, Mr.
It's
Spat says,
mhm.
as far as skirmish games go, I think Malifaux is criminally underrated. So I
Oh
don't
god,
have much Malifaux experience, but the miniatures themselves, I'm surprised I don't see them on Twitter more. I remember even that same year,
mm,
even like maybe 10 years back, I remember
mm.
seeing Malifaux and just being like, wow, they are going for it.
Yeah, Malifaux. I mean, they've got like they're building up a war game now. They've got an RPG as well.
Okay.
I think it's because they're a bit finicky to assemble.
Mm-hmm.
They're more true. They're more. You can see they're more lanky than GW models, and
Yeah,
like
they're
when the
sleek.
wrist and the hand is separate on that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
model, it's you're like I need tweezers to assemble this. I once got a
Yeah.
box set for like the RPG Hero set where it's like here customize them. I was like this is terrifying to try to assemble.
You're like,
So many
it's like
fine details.
surgery.
Yeah,
It's not so
it
much
is.
assembling a miniature as it is
Yeah,
surgery.
I think it's also one of those things where it's a price point where individually, the quality comes in at a cost. I'm afraid,
Yeah.
which is it's just the way it is. But they're totally great models. I haven't. I think I played like a demo of it once,
Yeah, because
and
I
it
heard good things
is
about the
actually
game itself
yeah.
too, and I know a lot of people love the miniatures. So I was kind of surprised I didn't see them around more, because there's some beautiful sculpts.
Oh man, old orcs. Yeah. Yeah. Wolf Lord Lewis just talking about old orcs. Couldn't you just get any old model, stick some orc bits in it, and then use them as the official model? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's one of those weird things where if a model has a newer version come out, then use the newer version. Because if you try to use the classic Gazgul model, who's on like a 20,
This
I think he's
little
on the
dude.
25, he's on the 25 mil base, I think, and
Yeah.
now he's on like a monster base, and be like, yeah, no,
Bring
no.
him out there. He's here to wreck stuff.
Although he has had a very nice evolution in terms of model. His third, fourth, I can't remember, but the addition of him in Mega Armor
Yeah,
was a really lovely model.
I agree.
Even though it got stolen for so many things, so many
Yeah.
Inquisitor models made out of that, or people put like the old um, Black Orc banner totem, just have like a full steel orc
Oh,
robot.
yeah.
But yeah, no, old orcs. I remember in previous editions they had the looted wagon, which was just
I
take any
had one of
vehicle
those. I
from
didn't even have an
any.
orc army. I wish I still had it because I never put it together.
Yeah, it was just take a model from any other faction and just orcify it. They looted it. Doesn't matter what it was. Necron monolith, sure, go for
Just
it. Like,
looted it.
what?
Yeah, I had the old war wagon model.
Well, to be fair, the new orc models do look. The new orc vehicles are great.
The
They've had a
new
good
ones,
update.
I don't know when Age of Sigmar came out, and I'm probably
Mhm.
totally wrong, but it seems like 2, 3. I don't know when it was years ago, but I started seeing the orc models around for Age of Sigmar, and I was like,
Mhm.
wow! Like
Mm.
that big chunky armor and the just what they had
Mm.
going on. I was like, okay, it's not the classic style, but I still dug it. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's pretty ferocious looking.
And you've got to love how all the wave of 40K orc vehicles that came out after the new Mad Max movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, they did right. I love them. I did a couple paint. I love those orc vehicles. Are probably my favorite vehicles in the 40K universe.
I'm actually still surprised they haven't re-released Gorka Morka. It
I
feels like
know.
they could do pretty well with that.
Yeah, they're probably buying. I mean, they're releasing so much. I can't believe how much stuff they release
Mm.
these days.
Oh, the 13th Black Crusade limited edition stuff, Wolf Lord Lewis. I went Space Wolf for a while back then. I had 13th Company. I had that Wolf Priest. The
Yeah,
Wolfen back then, I still think the Wolfen from 13th Black Crusade are better than the current Wolfen. I find the
yeah.
current Wolfen models very cartoony for some reason. Whereas those older ones, which look more like classic
Well,
Wolfmen, they look
it
more
does seem
monstrous.
like I wouldn't say maybe it is. So to me, the style
Mhm.
has evolved. Like I
Yeah,
it's like maybe not cartoony, but it to me it's very World of Warcrafty. Like they're
yeah,
taking it seems like it went like a little more World of Warcraft instead of like going the direction of say the old Realm of Chaos, which
yeah.
I get it. Like you got it's a wider audience to appeal from. And
Yeah,
although
as a company, they have to think of what's going to sell or be more
yeah, that's
popular,
it.
or
That's
yeah,
it. And so I kind of dig the other aesthetic a bit more, but there's still models in this that I really love. You know what I mean? Like um the there's that it's almost like a personal dreadnought suit for the
mm,
Space Marines. Like I think it's almost in some ways out of character or a little, but I still love that thing. Like it's like the robot loader from uh
aliens. You mean the Grey Knight, Dread Knight,
no,
the thing that
he
it looks
almost
like
has a
it's going to.
roll cage. It's like a scout dreadnought or
Oh,
something.
oh, oh, the newest one, the Invictus Warsuit.
Yeah, yeah. And so like that style is like very different to me, but I still love the model.
Hmm. Yeah, that still looks like it would work.
Yeah.
Uh, there was there everyone's got their preferred preferred models and stuff. I remember,
Yeah.
like, to this day I think people will still swear by I think it's pronounced Juan Diaz's demonettes, the
Oh
old
yeah,
metal
yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
which I've heard stories that some Games Workshop stores, like when they were on the shelves, they had to have like a black cloth for them because
Yeah.
kids would come
No,
in.
I was there when that was going on. So yeah, they told
Yeah,
yeah, I remember some places like about that. Yeah.
but really good sculpts. Um,
Absolutely.
and then that entire period of the sculpts was very different because the bloodletters were more very like gorilla like. And
Yeah.
then the very next edition they went back to like two editions previously.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I suppose. And then you got Plaguebringers who stayed the same, and the horrors.
Oh yeah, you know what? What is a wait? I'd have to look. When did they put out new horrors? When were the last time horrors came out?
Several years ago now. The current plastic horrors were like the updated set, I think.
Okay, I just haven't
Before
seen
that,
one.
before that, they were very similar, but in metal, I think. And then before that, you had like the goofy old
Gotcha.
classic ones.
Oh God, we're gonna have to do this
Sweeps.
more. You know all kinds of stuff too.
It's been very helpful and useful in my life. I'm a killer at pub quizzes. Um, and yeah, other games to check out: Wild West Exodus, if you're into that sort of diesel punky Wild West stuff.
Okay, I kind of
Um,
would be.
that's also another skirmish one. Um, they've recently, a year or two ago now, time has no meaning.
Yeah, it
Merged.
really doesn't. Dang it.
They merged in the game I developed. I say I developed. I worked on the setting for that game for first edition, Dystopian Wars, and now they've got like this mass battle, like slightly smaller epic scale,
Yeah.
steampunk diesel punk war game involved in that. Um, Sci-fi game, Drop Zone Commander, where you've actually got drop ships deploying things because things move very slowly on their own. So you've got to, transport them around the
Yeah, that's kind
battlefield
of
to
cool.
fight.
How
That was
is
really cool.
I see some models that I think I like. I haven't seen that many of them, but Infinity Games. Does Infinity Games do? I don't know
Mm.
what they do.
Infinity is the game. Um,
Okay,
I believe they've got an RPG as well, but they don't have a mass battle game. It's very much
gotcha.
a small skirmish game. There's no customization though.
Okay.
Every model has like its own unit entry, so it's like he has this weapon, he has this weapon. They've suffered a lot from here's the army list. Only half of it doesn't have models.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
the models are awesome. They're posed lovely and sculpted beautifully.
But when
They
you
are a
don't,
nightmare to
yeah,
convert. They're just really hard to convert as a result.
yeah,
Like even trying to do a
okay.
weapon switch. But it plays in a really it's a
That's
lot
like early
more
GW
detailed.
when you'd wait like 10 years for them to have a model they put in an army list.
I'm sorry. Yes. These days we just wait for an update. Like
Yeah.
when are the Dark Eldar getting new infantry? We're still waiting on new warrior sculpts. Oh
Oh
god,
yeah, is that the
tabletop
one? I think
BattleTech.
I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of see them wanting new warrior sculpts.
Wolflord, tabletop BattleTech. They're in a weird position. Currently they're owned by Catalyst Game Labs, and they've released, I think there's like 3 different versions of the tabletop game. There's like Alpha Strike, there's more of a board gamey one, and then there's the war game itself.
Interesting.
Honestly, if you're looking for things, I found it's always go to the forums. Always go to like their official forums or
Yeah,
somewhere
oh
online,
yeah.
and people in this community, they will help you get started. They want to have more opponents.
No, that's the thing is like you will get people that excuse me, like honestly like want to get you and will help you and like all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. Like that's just the craziest thing. It's like it's fun. I didn't know it evolved into
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? I was just like it was, so small when I was into it. You didn't really know and
Mhm.
whatever. And now there's just like this big thriving community full of people. It's like, hey, you want this? And
Remember, local gaming store, not the
oh,
Games
very
Workshop
true.
ones. The independents. They have they will stock whatever. Like I know my locals. I say locals. I'm in London. I'm lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
just it's a capital city. But yeah, BattleTech is also something I will actually recommend, especially if you're a big fan of lore. It has a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but and it's got so much like history behind it. You can kind of choose your own era for what kind of lore are you after.
Mm-hmm.
The part I always enjoyed was there's a part, the Succession Wars, where it's basically Game of Thrones in space, and it's
Yeah.
fantastic
Yeah.
because you have like all the different houses, like these noble
Because I
houses.
remember that
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
played
and
BattleTech. That was one of the ones I liked.
mm,
I like that. That's why I was been thinking about like Titanicus too, is because I like the whole heat sinks. Your
mm.
stuff's getting shot up, and you're still trying to go. And
Haven't played Titanicus. It's one of those where I'm like, I can't, I cannot invest in more.
no, that's it. Yeah, because you can only do so
Mhm.
much. You
Yeah,
know.
I say that I did invest in Star Wars Armada, and that's an interesting one.
Really.
Yeah, Star Wars Armada has like you have to queue up orders for your big ships
Oh
because
yeah.
momentum is a thing. So if you have a Star Destroyer, which, yeah, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Everyone
A
wants
game,
one of those.
yeah, a game lost 6 turns. A Star Destroyer needs to have 3 orders stacked up before the game begins
Okay.
because it's really hard to command that kind of ship to react to things. So you need to really think ahead what your battle plan is and what you're doing.
Huh, that's an
Also,
interesting concept.
also Star Wars Armada totally has, the Executioner, the Super Star Destroyer, and
Yeah.
like, yes,
I played
you.
so the only Star Wars one I played that I thought was it's not this Legion, but they had these like quote unquote collectible Star Wars figures with a game. Maybe it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know when it was.
I
But that was the
oh
last time
yes,
I
it was
played a
like
little Star Wars type, skirmish game.
yeah, yeah. Now you've got Legion, which again I haven't played. I've seen the miniatures though, very
I
nice,
thought they were
very
doing really
solid.
good on the Star Wars minis. I was surprised. I was like, well, it's only
Mm,
been like 30 years or whatever. At least you got or 40 practically. I'm like, at least you got some good minis now.
yeah, also very good because of all the Star Wars RPGs.
Yeah, yeah. That
And
from
granted,
from didn't Fantasy Flight do who did their RPGs for a while?
Fantasy Flight did the recent ones. They've stopped for now, I think. There were some announcement where they like paused things and they've
Yeah, I'm
cancelled a couple of
sure this
things.
probably got everything
Because
goofed up.
I heard that they've cancelled Legend of the Five Rings, and that's a blow.
Okay,
That's a pillar of the trading card community, like just gone now.
interesting.
And yeah, and now we're spilling over into card games. So yeah, big Magic player, were you?
A reasonable sized one, yeah. Especially, it was funny enough. I was to the Gen Con in '93 when they premiered Magic. I think it was '93.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so I was at that one, and then I played for a while. Nothing like competitive, but bought enough damn cards. You know what I mean? So it was like a lot of
yeah.
second and all that kind of stuff. And I played Magic, and one game I really liked that's like a card game no one really heard of. I mean, not no one heard of it, but
Mhm.
uh, White Wolf did they did a werewolf card game.
Oh
It was actually
god,
a lot of
yeah, they
fun.
did. They did
Yeah.
all of. No, they didn't do all the World of Darkness, but there was a vampire one as well. I
Yeah,
remember
they did a
that.
they did a vampire one. I always just
Yeah,
like the werewolf one, just because I like werewolves. You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
used to play that one too. But
And now to cycle things back, because Magic the Gathering is releasing a full set of commander decks for 40k.
oh,
So
they are okay. That's what I thought. I saw something. I didn't know if
yeah,
they were. It was like a meme thing or if it was real.
it's real, and they're apparently from what they've said, it's not going to be like the crossover with The Walking Dead or Godzilla,
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, here's a couple of like alternate art cards, and it shows these things. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, no, here it's a commander deck with for several of the factions with unique cards in it. And I'm like, this will be interesting.
Huh. It
Um,
is.
It is also very interesting how Wizards of the Coast is merging Magic the Gathering and D&D because apparently Forgotten Realms, the favorite setting, is going to get a Magic card set. So that's
Oh.
going to be fun, especially since two of the Magic settings now have D&D rulebooks and
Hmm.
like 5 more have PDFs. So
Oh yeah. God,
uh,
it's crazy how big man. Like at that time, if you were to say like, "Oh yeah, this little card company at the '93 Gen Con is going to take over Dungeons and Dragons," you'd be like, "What?"
also like I've seen some of the the story of Magic is also great. I was involved with like Richard Garriott, he
Yeah.
developed it, who's like you know the guy who made the Ultima game, so he's also like the grandfather of RPGs,
Wait, I
Western
didn't even know
RPGs.
that. Are you serious?
Yeah, he was involved in the Ultima games.
Oh my god! I that was what playing that stupid original Ultima game. I don't even know, was a Commodore 64. I just remember
Mm.
you could build these crazy walls. It was because the AI or whatever wasn't all super evolved, so we used to build this huge
Mm.
wall with the magic caster, and we could funnel all the enemies into one zone. And
Yeah.
we'd spend like hours building this, casting spells,
Mhm.
making this wall just to funnel everyone in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just he just took his D&D games and just digitized them. And the
Oh
early Ultima
wow!
games are wild. They're absolutely bonkers. Like, oh yeah, you need to. I need to get a new horseshoe for my steed, or why I'm here. I'll buy some rocket fuel
Yeah.
because it was from
Yeah,
that
you're right,
weird
because
era of
Ultima
fantasy
was
gaming
all
where there's like a
wacky.
space station. Yeah, you can find
Yeah,
blaster
yeah, I was
pistols and
forgetting some
stuff.
of that. You're right, because Ultima was really out there with that.
Yeah, and the solution's like, oh yeah, the evil wizard has like a gem of immortality, so you can't kill him. So what do? You have to go find the time machine. I
Yeah.
mean, like, yeah, that makes sense, but you'd think you'd find a magic spell for time travel, not the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so wild. It's fascinating to look back on how much interconnectivity there is as well. Like, the people who founded Games Workshop. One of them is the author of the fighting fantasy books, the choose your own
Okay,
adventure
yeah, yeah.
books. It's also really hilarious that there are two separate Steve Jacksons who are big names in like the RPG community.
Hmm.
One is British and one is American, and they're completely
That's
separate
right.
people with the exact same name. And you're like, what? How?
What are the odds of that?
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people being excited for the 40k Commander decks. So, okay, chat, what do you think? Obviously, we're going to have five decks, one
Oh,
for each
yes,
of the main Magic colors. What factions do you think will be represented? And you
so
can't just say Imperium for all of them.
they'll do Ultramarines.
Ultramarines, yeah, but what color? What's the
Oh,
play style?
yo, you're
Because
right. I forgot.
here's the funny thing: orcs
Ultramarines will be
orcs
white.
would they would have to be, wouldn't they? Ultramarines would be the white deck. Orcs would be the red deck because of
Yep.
course they would
Or
be.
unless they would do
Um,
chaos like corn.
no, no, chaos would have to be the black deck. I imagine
Oh yeah.
pay life sacrifice things to make
Yeah,
things
you're
work.
right. You're
It would
right.
be like so. It would be like the thing is because it's a white deck, they might not be allowed. They might not do Ultramarines as the poster boys. They'd have to choose like the White Scars or something
Yeah. Oh yeah,
to
you're right,
visually
because they
tie
have
them in.
nothing white really to go with.
Yeah, or white consoles. Like because if they did Ultramarines, they would have to by Magic's rules of chromatic theming. They'd have to
Yeah.
be a blue deck, which doesn't make sense. I Then again, all things considered, I can see Ultramarines working as a blue deck, and just Codex Astartes is what lets them to counteract and cancel enemy
Yeah,
plans.
that's how they would. Yeah, they would just kind of re. I could see that.
And then of course, if you still got to figure out what would be the green deck. Ah, who's
They
got
would
the
do.
massive
Wouldn't they just do
resource
orcs and then
generation?
do it like they get all whatever? Maybe they would just do orcs because it's
Orcs?
kind of life, not necessarily lifey, but I think they could get away with it.
No, I'm an idiot. Tyranids.
Oh yeah, that would be the one for that.
Like, what's green decks known for? Big monsters and lots of resources.
Mr.
Yeah, I mean,
Slate
it would
says
be nice.
like the Necrons would be 2-1, and Wolf Lord Lewis
Yeah,
says Chaos could possibly colorless. Red green orcs. Oh yeah,
yeah.
they could split. I forgot
Red
they
green
do all the
orcs would work.
splits now.
You could do the Ravnica guild splits, but I think that's there's it depends on how much they're looking for.
Yeah.
Like I imagine as an initial investment to test the waters, they would do 5
Oh,
monocolors.
you're right. They wouldn't go full on split right off the
Uh,
get.
Chaos colorless. I mean, no Chaos. If you were going to do it properly, would be 5-color Nightmare. Mechanicum would be colorless because in Magic, artifacts and
Yeah.
mechanical things are
That's right. Our
colorless.
whatchamacallit, that would be a perfect one. Mechanicus would be perfect for colorless. You're right.
Mm, um, I mean, like if we're talking like all the mechanics, like Chaos would be all 5 colors, and they would bring back the infect rule from Phyrexia and Mirrodin, and just have it as corruption or something stupid. Um, I'm really curious to see what it would be, but yeah, no white deck, Sisters of Battle.
Oh, that would be the one.
That would probably work the best, I imagine. Black green Death Guard, yeah, yeah, that's just a no brainer.
But it'd be perfect. That's a
Ooh,
perfect match.
Tau as a white deck. Yeah, but if Tau are the white order greater good thing, and yes, you do have the white Tau Sept. you're kind of left with the Space Marines as the blue deck because Space Marines are going to be part of it. They have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. There's no way they're not going to do Space Marines.
And if it's going to be Ultramarines, then they'll have to stick to blue because if you look at the way like Magic is done, that those colors are predominant in
Yeah, yeah.
in those
They're
colors.
not gonna pull a color
But
change
again,
kind of
but
deal.
again, again, that would work. Ultramarines can be like, oh yeah, they just cancel and counterattacked, and reactive thinking would be your cancel spells, your
Yeah.
counter spells. Although easily they could do blue deck is Thousand Suns because magic, and they're
Hmm.
already blue.
Yeah, I'm sure
Um,
they spent a lot of man hours figuring it out, or human hours.
a 5 hour meeting just to think of like, oh
Hmm.
god, what
Like,
Space
yeah,
Marine
just what
chapter
faction
can
are we
we
gonna
do?
use? They're probably like, okay, you gotta do Space Marines, you gotta do Ultramarines because they know
Mhm.
it. You gotta do Chaos, and then you gotta do
Yeah.
Orcs, and maybe they would
When
do Necrons.
when in doubt, look at the Dawn of War series.
Yeah, there
'Cause,
you go.
um, a red deck of Blood Angel Space Marines, I can see that actually. That is a good call. That is a good call, Spats, because that is very first strike.
Yeah, you're right
Appear
because it
and
is first
attack on the
strike
turn you
kind of
appear.
thing.
Deep
God,
strike, yeah. Attack on the
I
turn you
forgot how
arrive.
much I miss talking about all this stuff. Every time I do this, I'm like, oh man, I remember that now.
Well, the problem is pick a Space Marine Legion or chapter. It fits one of the colors.
Yeah.
you know, it's what like again, color doesn't match up, but Salamanders as a red deck because of their pyromania would work.
Hmm. Yeah, very
Unless they
true.
do unless they break it down even further and they just do here's an Imperium deck, here's a Chaos deck, here's an
See,
Eldari
that's
deck.
what they might do.
Hmm. So the Imperium deck is white and it'll be like Sisters of Battle, AdMech, Space
Yeah,
Marines,
so it'll be a
Imperial
few
Guard.
different ones in that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I could see them doing the faction keyword kind of thing, and then you'd have Eldar, Craftworld Eldar, Yanari,
Yeah.
and Dark Eldar, and then hmm, it's fun to think about.
Man, we already covered a lot of ground. I'm getting close to finish on this one.
Huzzah!
I'm gonna do a quick. I'm gonna let it play a replay right here. Um, video time lapse.
Maybe you need to add like a trail of smoke from the gun.
I'm going to. Yeah, I gotta do. I want to do a couple things on his like chest plate and put some eyes in and that.
Yeah, yeah, that is looking fantastic, artist.
Thank you. So there are just some of them like this, a little scene. I'm like, okay, what do I? And a lot of them I don't know, and I wasn't ready for this. I'm like, okay, let's. What I
Mhm.
don't want to do is if I think too much and I start worrying about it, or I think like, oh, I got to make it top itself, then I just get all, I'm like, don't think about it, man. Hop on live stream and just do it. And like,
Mm,
and I intentionally, like, I don't mind for now some of them not being kind of fully prepared because it just makes me, I don't want to rely on always over preparing or whatever. You know what I mean? I
mm.
want to be able to just be
Yeah.
like, dude, drop of a hat. I don't even need, I can just get on and do something and not sweat it, you know? So there's like a
I
mix.
Yeah, no, I find that's very good for a creative process as a writer. Um, there are a lot of writers who will swear the opposite of what I say. I
Hmm.
find it much more fun and engaging to be very much more instinctual with it, where I'm like, what am I thinking of? What do I want? Okay, let's go with that. So, like when I submit stories to Cold Open Stories, who very good fan driven project to collect
Yeah,
40K
that is a
fan
good
fiction.
one.
Do check it out. They also do some
I
really good
did.
audio
And
dramas.
yeah, I got to listen to a few more because I listened to some and I was right away blown away by the quality. I was like, whoa, this is
Oh
like
yeah, no,
seriously
Colin's
hardcore. I'm
really
like, this
heavy
is,
into it.
and the stories
Mm.
were really good. So I was like, huh, there was like a lot going on there. So yeah,
Mm.
I
And
agree with that.
they've started an SCP mini game now where you're doing like an inquisitorial archive
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So they're doing their own SCP stuff. So that's also fun to check out. Uh, Wolf Lord Lewis, to go down another tangent, what's your opinion on the Stormlight Archives books? I'm not familiar with those actually.
Me neither.
Have not heard of those. But if we're talking about books, check out the Black Company series by Glenn Cook. That's a fun one.
What is
That's
that?
one I've been reading.
So that's
It's
obviously the Black Company then.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like the Books of the South, Return of the Black Company. I mean, if you look up Glenn Cook and Black Company, you'll find the series. And
Yeah.
it's basically here's a band of mercenaries who work for the bad guy. You know,
Okay.
here's your traditional fantasy story from the bad guy point of view, where they're like, we do things by the, we plan, we take tactics, and then a bloody prophecy comes along and fucks it all up because
Yeah.
someone's a chosen one with a magic weapon, and it doesn't matter how good your logistics are or how good your actual war machine
Yeah.
economy is. Bullshit magic.
Bullshit magic wins the day.
Yeah, and you kind of love that. It's so snarky. Um, Other book series, if you're a particular fan of literature or vampire media, uh, Kim Newman's Anno Dracula books, they're great fun.
There was the only thing I was never too big into like
Mhm.
vampire. Like I always liked anything,
Yeah,
anything fantasy or whatever I like. So
yeah,
whatever. But
hmm
it wasn't like a super huge thing. And I used to play Vampire the
hmm
Masquerade or whatever. But
yeah.
what was I just gonna say? Oh,
You're just not
there's
into
some. I think
vampires.
there was a Netflix short series about Dracula that came out last year or something that I actually liked. So I don't know if it was a super tangent, but
are
if you
are you talking about Castlevania?
no, not animated. It was a little.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Netflix, and yeah, it was actually good. It was only like 4 episodes, but it's like an hour and a half or something each episode. It's a full story, but it was actually really well done.
hmm
I liked it.
Yeah, I'll just hunt that down.
Yeah, if you got Netflix or whatever, I'll if I remember the name, I'll let you know because it was
Yeah,
definitely something that.
but
Oh,
Kim Newman's Anno Dracula series, I recommend it. You might know Kim Newman because he wrote Warhammer Fantasy novels, the Genevieve series about a female vampire just in the old world. Um, but Anno Dracula is great. It's a sort of fantasy alternate history where the original Dracula book happens, but Dracula wins at the end and becomes King of England.
uh,
So
yeah.
so it starts off in like Victorian times, and Jack the Ripper is murdering vampire prostitutes. And
Oh,
they
okay.
have to track
Interesting.
you have to
Yeah.
track him down. And the reason I love it is there Kim Newman knows his like fiction because there
Yeah.
are so many references to everything. It blew
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mind. Like Count Orlok from the Nosferatu movie, he's just in there. Mycroft Holmes is in that book as a character. Uh, like the Professor Moriau from the Island of Dr. Moriau is in there.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
then like
never
in the
read
second
that. I never read The Island. I
hmm,
know roughly what it's about. Like one time I
hmm,
have to check it out.
hmm. Oh, take care, Spats. He's got to run off now.
Spaz, thank you very much for making it. I appreciate it. And we'll be in touch at some point.
Wolf Lord Lewis, get that set of books. Also, Sharp. Yes, Sharp. I've never actually read the books, but I have the entire series on DVD, and it's always a fun watch. Give Sean Bean a black powder rifle, he will not
See, I
die.
never knew about that till this year. I never knew of that show. And then I've
Huh.
seen it as a meme a few times. And then I was like, huh, I'm going to have to watch that one day.
It is a great fun watch. You can see why a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like Gaunt's Ghost is Sharp in space.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got the similar sort of storytelling beats, but then you could say that about any sort of like war story,
Oh, mostly, yeah.
Um,
It's all.
but it's actually really good fun. Really nice characters, and Napoleonic warfare. Obviously, slightly smaller scale because they couldn't get enough extras. But for what it is, like
Yeah.
a solid live action show with actual gunpowder explosions, yeah, it's great fun.
Huh, interesting. I'll definitely have to check.
I mean, it's that thing where you can see sort of the British influence on Warhammer, with everyone saying like, "Oh yeah, Caiaphas Cain, that's just like Blackadder in 40K," and you're like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, a
yeah.
little bit." The only thing
I
Sean
always
Bean
dug
doesn't
it
die in.
because, like I said, like I'm growing up in the states, and something like 40K, or at that time especially, just the UK aesthetic for its like art, like with Warhammer and certain other
Hmm.
things, it was different. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you would be getting. They had Dungeons and Dragons in here and stuff, but the art aesthetic back then was so different. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, so it was just like this standout stuff that would really
Hmm.
like pop in your mind at that
Yeah. Oh,
time.
oh, D&D really helped Games Workshop get off the ground. Like the first thing they really were selling, before their own IP was D&D
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And I remember there's so many stories from back then from like the founders being like, oh yeah, they were on the phone with like Gary Gygax, and both sides of the conversation were trying to convince the other they were like a legitimate big business company and not just like a couple of guys
Yeah.
in a shed.
A couple guys making something.
Yeah. Or like whenever they would get like deliveries to their head office, they'd have to like lean out the window and shout to the postman, it's like, "Oh, we're up here," because it'd be like down like a
Over
side
here.
alley. Yeah, lots of really interesting stuff from how these like companies started, and it's gonna suck. It's like it'll never really happen again. You know, it
No,
was like
not
the
that.
right place, right time.
It is, but in a way, it is almost happening again now. In that you have, like, I look at places like Dark Fantastic Mills, which is small but like really growing and it's getting his fan base. You know what I mean? And I see
Yeah.
all these little companies like all springing up doing that. So in its own way, you're not going to recapture that, but someone's
Mm.
going to spring from all this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone's going to do the right mix of, oh hey, we have 3D printing, but we release these rules and then we design this stuff, and they're going to put it all
Yeah.
together in the next wave.
Mm. Wolf Lord Lewis would love to see a Gaunt's Ghost or Cyphus Kane series, a TV series.
I don't know if they're ever ready for TV
They
40K
can't.
yet.
Like, I enjoy the thought. I don't think you could ever do an official one. It's too much in people's minds and they have their own interpretations. It'd be great to see, but they'd be better off doing their like an original story for like a TV show.
And
Um,
I think, yeah,
and
because
having more people who know what they're doing. Granted, with like the trailers and things they've been doing, like the live action trailer when Imperial Knights came out, that was really well put together and cool. But you know, Games Workshop did do an official movie. It didn't do well,
yeah, no, I
and
know.
you know, and I don't know where the issue was there, but they had Dan Abnett. He wrote the script for it, and that
Yeah.
script wasn't great shakes. I'm afraid. It's like it's that weird thing where I can see the Ultramarines movie working as a novel, and
Hmm.
but because it was a movie, it didn't work.
And there's so much.
Mm.
What's surprising is some of the amateur guys. Well, they're not really amateurs, but they're not like
The fan
officially
made stuff,
licensed
yeah. You're,
animations, I
you're,
should
you're,
say.
this is going
But
towards Astartes, isn't it?
that too. But there's a few of them out there that I thought were really exceptional, and I was like, wow, they're
Mm.
really pushing that. And I'm like,
Did
and
you
I'm
ever
like,
have a
they're.
chance to see Damnatus?
I don't think so.
That was the German fan made one, which was like they made it, and then it turned out that because of like German copyright law means movie makers get certain rights, so
Yeah.
GW had to stop them releasing it. You can find pirate copies floating around the internet. It's actually really good considering it's a live action
Yeah. Okay.
like
Interesting. I didn't
Inquisitor
know that.
TV show thing. Um,
Huh.
I think I kind of enjoy, almost like a personal thing. I enjoy the fan animations where you can tell it's people who it's not the budget, it's the passion that carried the
Oh
project.
yeah. No, that counts 110.
Yeah.
That's what. So that aspect you touched on right there is,
Mhm.
and I think that's what's missing from the when you get to a scale, like it's like everyone has to have that passion because there's so many little pieces that go into that
Mhm.
whole animated project. And
Yeah.
to me, 40K is such a specific feel and a whole thing. Like, yeah, it's just to me, it just makes sense why they haven't been able to pull it off yet. As much as I would love to see anything good, it's still like, man, I hope I get it in my lifetime, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we've gotten really good video games, and that is a hell of an achievement. You know?
That too, they've stepped that up from way back when.
I've got a copy of like, Final Liberation somewhere, Chaos Gate,
Yeah.
Warhammer Fantasy, the Dark Omen series,
So
the
what I
Grudgebringers. That
forget
was
the
really
one
cool
I
stuff.
played in the 80s on the Commodore 64. I think it was Space Crusade before it was Space
Mm,
Crusade. I think that's the name of it.
yeah, Space Crusade, which was like proto Space Hulk.
Yeah, yeah, and that was fun to me. I'm always like, man, I should look that up and try to play it again. It was just because I remember the
Hmm.
whole what was going on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I was remembering it. Like, uh, it's it's because 40K has been around for so long. It's had to evolve with the audience and stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's not a bad thing in itself. Some of the
It's just the
changes
nature of
go
things.
for
You
it.
got to
Yeah,
keep up.
yeah, but
Like
but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like the changes they're
no.
introducing, they're not bad. It's just different stuff, and people have some issues that.
Hmm. Like if you were saying, hey, leave it up to me, I would have been
Mhm.
like, hey, you go to Realm of Chaos and then push all in with that style and keep going. And they would have
Mhm.
been a smaller company and they would have been,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it would still
yeah,
appeal to me like even
yeah.
more than it does now. But like that's
Mhm.
why I'm just like I'm very, I guess like I guess I decide what's lore. Like they'll put out a bunch of
Yeah,
product, and then I'll be like, okay, well, I'll take this part, and it'll be lore. That part will be lore, and that, and then I'll leave the
yeah,
rest.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's like I would just
yeah.
decide
But
what I want to do
at
with it.
the at the end, you're a fan. You can
Yeah,
enjoy what parts you want.
yeah.
People will enjoy other parts. Go for it.
Hmm.
There's fandom wars over everything, and good rule of thumb is the larger a fandom is, the more the creators really kind of shouldn't listen to it. I
You'll
find.
fall to like the tragedy of the commons type situation, even though that's not the right term.
Yeah,
But
no, no, but I'm no, no. It's like smaller. I don't know why, but it's something I found in my experience where like the smaller fandoms are much more sort of, we would like this, but we trust the creators to be doing what they want. In very
yeah,
huge fandoms, they get demanding, and I really don't like that.
yeah. No, I
Because
completely agree
because
with that.
which I and case in point, Star Wars. Okay, the fandom demanded this, so they changed things and gave us, episode 9, which was just a
Yep.
rehash of everything the fandom wanted, and it sucked. it had some moments in it, but did you see they released
Dude,
the
how
concept art for the original plan for what episode 9 was going to be? Did you see that?
I know. So I got to be honest with it.
Mhm.
So, okay, I was to the first Star Wars in a theater, and that Star
Yeah,
Wars was a huge influence on me because it was
yeah.
like as a kid, it was like one of the first things you saw that was really good in that
Hmm.
scale and everything.
Hmm.
And in episode 9, I got to a point where there was like it was like 10 minutes in, and they're like, and the Emperor's back, and he has a huge ship, and everything's
Yeah,
going on, and I turned it off. I'm like, wait,
yeah,
that is what after 9 movies the Emperor is back was like in a 5 minute blurb right at the beginning, and that was the
yeah,
build up, and
yeah.
I was so turned off. I
It
turned
gets
it off, and I
worse.
haven't watched it. I haven't
It
got
gets
past that because
worse.
I was like, I can't even get
Mhm.
past that. That is what this
Yeah,
all culminated in was a five
yeah,
minute the Emperor's back. Let's go. I
yeah.
blew my
And
mind.
and the message he sent out to the galaxy, this important lore thing which we don't hear in the movie. Only way to hear it, go play Fortnite. It's in there.
Oh, are you
Yeah,
serious?
yes. Emperor Palpatine's big message, like there's a key piece of lore not in the main movie, it's in Fortnite. I'm like, no.
Oh,
Like
you're
it's
kidding
no.
me.
It so I'm about to raise some flack. I actually respect The Last Jedi a
Yeah,
lot out of the sequel trilogy, because it was its own distinct movie.
gotcha,
It's for the same reason I really enjoy the first half of Force Awakens,
gotcha.
because everything in Force Awakens until the scene where Rey is captured was written by one screenwriter, and then the rest was written by someone else, and that's the point. It just becomes a rehash of A New Hope.
Hmm.
Until then, it's all new stuff, trading new ground. I'm like, yeah, cool, that's fun. I don't. If I wanted to see this stuff again, I just put in the original movies,
Yeah, yeah. No,
and I
I kind of
liked.
agree with that. That was
Mhm.
one thing I'm like, like when George Lucas, at least he did the other three. I'm like,
Mhm.
I guess I'm just so easy going with that stuff. I'm like, dude, I
Yeah,
guess a lot of it is I've made art, and not every piece of art I make is the world's best. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, what are you gonna
yeah,
do? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we're
yeah.
trying to like, I take it for
Prequel
hey, that was
trilogy
cool.
has, yeah, the prequel trilogy, lots of issues, but you know what? It stands as its own trilogy separate from the original.
Yeah,
It
and he
doesn't
went
rehash the old
for
things.
it.
It does
He
different
did
things.
some
Yeah.
world stuff. He did a bunch of stuff in there that I was
I
like, hey,
mean,
what?
let's be honest. The reason Star Wars succeeded was because of everyone around George Lucas, like the
Oh, yeah,
editing
well,
team and
and
everything.
the one thing I think so him as a producer type thing, and as far as
Mhm.
making smart calls, that's what made it. What how he got his money and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like so. people bag on him for being a director or this and that. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like, he is like a creator. You know what I mean? To have
Yeah.
that strength of will and the smarts and to put it all together and then grow that,
Mhm.
like that's in a league of its own. It's like it's not like you're the world's
Yeah.
greatest director or this or that, but you put together and you created Star Wars, dude. It's
I mean,
like, come on, like you don't even
it's
get.
also the fact that the original like producers, like the licensors, were like, "Oh yeah, you can keep the merchandising rights."
Mm-hmm.
That shot them in the
Yeah, they're like,
foot.
you can keep that garbage. No one's buying no hairy Wookiee thing or whatever you call it.
Jesus Christ, that was mental. But yeah, and I liked how in The Last Jedi they were going into the war profiteering angle,
Mm-hmm.
which was always a thing in the expanded universe, which is I always bugged me,
It
where
was,
they're like,
yes, you're right. That
for
totally was.
for a rebel group, the Rebel Alliance, who are not a like official government force, they're
Yeah,
a separate, they're meant to be a terrorist group. Why do they have their own custom vehicles?
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you look in the modern world, this would be like, oh, you're going to war with a terrorist cell who has a factory and their
Yeah, who
own
has a
make
bunch
of
of
tanks.
factories pulling out stuff where they would just be bombed.
Like,
Yeah,
not like, they're using old, sold military equipment, which the rebels should be doing. They should have like old Clone Wars era tech or the
yeah.
equivalent of a pickup truck, not X-wings, which are better fighters than TIE fighters.
We're the rebels with better
What
gear.
the? Yeah,
Like,
this is the
wow.
equivalent of like the rebels breaking out F-22 Raptors.
Yeah.
What? But yeah, obviously aesthetics keep the sides distinct and easily
Yeah.
identifiable on screen.
That was
That's an
always
acceptable sell.
I kind of there's a Georgie's just one of his things I think was like, it has to look cool. He's like, don't worry too
Yeah,
much about how it's fun, like make it look cool. I'm like,
yeah, that's totally fine. It's just funny to think about, like, why can't the Empire just say, "Oh, that's an that's an X-wing
yeah,
that's made by the Income Company."
yeah.
Shut down the Income Company
Yeah,
because
go
they're
bomb that
collaborating with
place.
terrorists. What the fuck? Like,
Very
and then
true.
it, and then you get the nice thing of, oh, maybe they were actually supplying the rebel cell because an
Yeah,
empire needs an enemy.
yeah, very true.
That could have been a really fun thing again.
Yeah, someone could have been doing it on the
Yeah,
side, like not a side hustle, but you know what I mean. Someone
yeah.
like some division of it could have been secretly funding it to do it.
I do also
Absolutely.
love how ever since Disney was like, expanded universe is no longer canon, we're doing our own thing, which, as conscientious as it, as divisive as it is, I can understand.
Yeah,
But then the fact that some of their spokespeople turned around and said, "We're creating new things. We don't have all this lore to turn back on." And you look at 30 years worth of novels and shit, and you're like, "Are you for real?"
yeah, yeah. I
But
know. I
yeah,
think someone
that
did
was
say something about that,
yeah,
right?
they
I was
did,
like,
and it
wait a
was like
second, you have
so
like this
galling. Which is
unlimited amount.
why, yeah, which is why I love that Dave Filoni's whole thing has been making as much thing from expanded universe canon again,
Yeah,
because it's his projects which have made things like Admiral Thrawn be canon again. And we were
yeah.
like, yes, please.
See,
This is
I was so I
great.
didn't even like I just thought that and I was like, wait, is he canon again or whatever? I didn't even because
Yes.
even in the books, when the books came out, they were like, well,
Yeah.
this isn't canon.
Oh no, he's in the Rebels TV show. He
Yeah.
is canon, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think he's scheduled to appear in the Ahsoka series, the live action one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And everyone's just sitting there going like, "There you go," and you could have had him as the villain of the sequel trilogy, and it would have been amazing. But
I
no.
did like. I'm gonna end here shortly and go do a few things, but this
Yep,
conversation's been so
we've
fun. I'm
gone on
like, I
a
just keep going. Like, oh
wild. It's
God,
been a
we got into
wild
Star Wars.
ride.
Like, I keep going with Star Wars. You are definitely gonna have to come back. And well, yeah, you're in the Discord and stuff. If
Yeah.
anyone's listening, please, if you don't mind, hit that like button. It helps with all the algorithm and ranking me up. And if you, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter or anything, but if anyone wants, a Discord invite, just let me know somewhere, and I will be sure to send you one. It's just like a real small Discord, but it's people like Hydriatis here, so it's a lot of fun. And yeah, this is going to be good. So we're going to have to. Yeah, we're gonna have you back on and talk some more. I get it. So I every time I do this, I'm always amazed. I'm like, oh man, how much I miss talking to people about it. And plus, this is cool because like you're in the UK, so it's just a different perspective on things. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you've played obviously a lot more than I have with the stuff, especially recently. So it's good. You know a lot of games. So it's a lot of cool. Mon Cala team. Team Armchair General. No X-wings are manufactured after Clone Wars. It's ridiculous. Or Mon Calamari cruisers. Yeah, you're right. The Mon Calamari cruisers.
The Empire's like, we rule the galaxy. Oh, by the way, there's a planet here making like anti-planetary level capital ships
Yeah, you're gonna
to
want to shut
supply
that
the
one down first.
that only seems to be used by the Rebel Alliance. Like you
I
never
did
see them
like
being used civilian.
Mandalorian. I dug, and I really was
Yes,
surprised that what was that first Star Wars movie after Lucas sold it? I liked that one.
Rogue
Uh,
One.
yeah, yeah. I thought that
Rogue.
was a, and to my mind, like, so I guess in my perfect version of how I would have handled things, I would have done Star Wars, but then like I would have ditched it all and told a different, totally different story in a totally different section of the Empire and just started anew with something in that world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like,
Oh yeah.
that's kind of
Um.
how I always was like, dude, leave it the same, leave that alone.
Mhm.
Don't, I know you want to like go back so you can,
Yeah.
profit from it and get ideas and all that, but I'm like, just go for it. It's Star
The
Wars.
the problem. Mandalorian, great, love it, lots of cool stuff. There's one problem I have with it. Spoilers, if you haven't seen season 2, have you, artist?
Yes, yes, I have.
Okay, so going into spoiler territory, look away if you look away. Turn off the audio until we do some sort of hand signal until I do
Yeah,
this,
yeah, I'll
and
hit
then we'll be
something.
done with spoilers. I don't like that at the end of the Mandalorian, it's just a side story to the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
Everything in Star Wars is about the Skywalkers. It's a fucking galaxy. Let
Oh, see,
us
I see that.
enjoy this
I
separate
think that's
story.
what I agree with.
Like, I love the scene. It was great. I found it a very respectful and fun tribute. And obviously that was the way it was going to go, but I just don't like that at the end of it. If it's of any import or importance in the setting, it's about this one bloody family. I don't care.
And
It's
and,
what
and
I
almost
liked.
like
It's what
I
I liked the
agree
thing in
with
Last
that.
Jedi. Yeah, when it was in Last Jedi, they were like, "Oh yeah, Rey's family were no one."
Yeah.
That's actually a really good thing. You don't have to be a legacy. You can come from very simple beginnings
No,
and
I don't.
become
And
great.
see, that was almost like the
Heroism
whole.
is not in the blood. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. It was just like, and to me, I just agree with it on the premise of why wrap the universe is
Mhm.
so big. Why do you have to be stuck on this one dude? You know what I mean, or one
Yeah.
name or whatever? It's like, come
Or
on, like so. I think too. That's why, especially when the Star Wars were coming out and I'm watching them, my
mm,
mind is captured by the vastness. So I don't even care
mm,
about necessarily just the Skywalker. I'm like, what's going on
yeah.
in this huge world? He's got
No,
like
spoilers done.
worms on asteroids, and like I don't
Yeah.
care what's going on with Luke if there's a worm
Yeah.
on an asteroid. You know what I mean? Show me more of
Yeah.
that.
Um, or something really fun is there is the potential in Star Wars as a setting currently to do a full Star Trek style show
Oh yeah,
because canonically half of the Star Wars galaxy is unexplored. You
yeah.
have the unknown reaches. You have the Cis Empire in there.
See, I
The
know, and
Chiss
that to me,
Empire is down there, and I'm
like
like, you could do a full like frontier exploration. You could do like
it's
there's your
you could
excuse
almost
to
do
have
like
an
a
Imperial
Firefly
show.
type
Yeah,
thing, like
yeah. On the
just
outer
that. Like
rim,
it'd
you
be
could just
perfect. You don't even have. You
yeah,
could be so far removed from the rest of Star Wars and still tell a cool story.
yeah. I mean, I think Mandalorian's kind of got those Firefly vibes. To be fair,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
that sort of it's after the it's the wild frontier kind of thing.
I literally just started. So I hadn't seen Firefly in maybe like 10 years,
Mm,
the series. So I just started watching it like a few days ago, and I was
yeah.
drawing last night, and I'm like, okay, let me pop one on, and
Oh, God.
it really was. It's kind of like the throwback, almost like innocent, fun type of action adventure. Where then for a while everything gets so gritty and so like it has to be. And like
Mhm,
I love that's one of the reasons I like 40K is like it was the
mhm,
violence kind of thing, like twinge in it that you didn't really see in
mhm,
like Dungeons and Dragons. You know what I mean? So it was like a
mhm.
little grittier, and I like that. But then it seems like every property over the last 10 years got all gritty. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like I just like some. It was a good mix for me to watch. I'm like, wow, that really was a well done show.
Mhm. Also, fun thing, Wild West Exodus, they totally have like lawyer friendly box set of just the Firefly crew
Oh yeah,
for that setting, just as one of the starter boxes is you could just
really? I
yeah, it's so silly.
I
It's
remember when
great.
I laughed is I was watching. I was like, wow, I really liked Kaylee's character. I think it was Kaylee. I
Mm.
can't remember. I think
The
I was like,
engineer, yeah.
yeah, that was a great character. It was so cool when I was just laughing because I watched
Hmm.
the episode where they were being captured, and the one commander called the ship a piece of junk, and she
Yeah.
was like all getting into stuff about junk. And
Hmm.
so I was like, it's like and like how there was a scene where she was like asked about fixing it, and just how
Yeah.
it was like portrayed over there. I was like, okay, this is good. You know, like they
Yeah.
got the characters good in that.
Mhm. I also like how it's not just it's just the evil empire and they're all faceless goons.
Yeah, yeah,
You have the alliance, and yes, they're evil, but you've got like the officer who actually believes in the ideals and things.
yep,
Which
yeah, and
actually another thing that irks me is like a lot of the really good stuff in Star Wars is like in the books, even in the new
yeah,
canon. Like the First Order being founded by Rare Admiral Sloane. You know,
mhm,
the Empire was like stabilized and saved by a black woman. I'm like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fantastic. The fandom would like if more of the fandom actually knew it, they would lose their shit. I'm like, this is hilarious. This is great. There's so many cool characters. Some of the novels are daft, to be
Yeah, I didn't
fair.
read. I read a few of the novels, never like too much. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like I liked all the stuff from a aesthetic, and I liked all the stories, but I was never like super into any of them. You know what I mean? Like I would always
Yeah.
be like, okay, I'll read some
The
books.
the
I'll definitely
Aftermath
watch
trilogy was
movies.
okay.
What was that?
The Aftermath trilogy, like the three books they released specifically to bridge the gap between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, like there was some okay stuff.
Gotcha.
It was like solid, but like the main characters read a little bit like a D&D party. It was a bit silly.
Yeah, I'm curious what they're gonna
uh,
do with that D&D movie. Like,
I hope
I
they
don't.
do it like Lego Movie. In the Lego Movie where like after the first two thirds, it's like, oh, it's actually a kid's imagination.
Yeah, yeah.
I really want that.
I wonder what they're gonna do with it. How they're gonna pull like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I mean, and what's funny is, as long as I've been into D&D,
Yeah.
I think I would kind of lean a little into my mind just leans into like the Dragonlance look,
Hmm.
like you know what I mean. So back in the day, so that's kind of where if I think you're going Dungeons and Dragons, I think like I just go my mind goes that way. It doesn't go like The Witcher where it's like darker and grayer. I
Oh
go
no, no, no! It's goofy. It's goofy
yeah.
as hell.
See, I don't know. See, what's
It's
weird is I don't know if I ever got goofy from actually playing the game. So when I've played the game, I'm like, okay, I read the rules, I read all that stuff. Nothing was kind of goofy about it. But then when they made movies, they went goofy with it. And I was like, to me, there was a slight
mhm,
mismatch because I could get where you could, and I get to like they're
mhm.
playing up the fact that it's role playing, so they want to go a little goofy. But it was just,
Yeah.
it was a mismatch to me with that. They either, and I like some goofy stuff. I like, Fifth Element. You know what I mean? So that would have
Yeah.
goofy in it, whatever. But I guess if you do it that way, it has to be like Fifth Element to me. And some of the other ones came off
Um,
like just
I
goofy,
mean,
goofy.
yeah. Okay, so several things to counter your point of like, oh, it needs a little element of goofiness and light humor.
Hmm.
I'd say a perfect movie that captures sort of like the spirit of like the D&D adventure
Yeah.
is the '90s Mummy film with Brendan Fraser.
Okay. Yeah, I could
It's
totally
it's
see
it's
that.
got it's got very charismatic, very charming characters who play off each other,
Okay. So yeah,
and
I would
it
agree
has
with
some
that because that was
slightly
yeah.
silly moments, but it's a good fun adventure. Um, the thing about I'm loving like everyone's making these like, oh, the D&D movie should have this joke, and I'm like, the Gamers, which is a fan made D&D movie, did those jokes 10 years ago. Go check
Yeah.
them out. It's a great series of films if you're
Okay.
into D&D. The Gamers and the Gamers 2 Darkness Rising. Number two
Okay.
specifically is good because like the first one was when they were like still uni students. Number two is where they had like actual. Again, it's one of those where you can see the passion carries it through,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have it is actually a gaming group at a table playing the story, and then the actors of the players acting out the characters as well.
Oh, and
Um,
I still like. I'm like. I just had to interject because I saw someone talking
mhm.
about the lightsaber battle in there, and so I'm
In
always like,
Rebels,
in
yes.
my mind, I have the coolest idea for a Jedi. I like. I should draw it and get it out there before
Oh
anyone else
god,
does because I haven't seen anything like it.
yeah. Yeah, Jedi OC. Here we go.
Here, the coolest idea for Jedi. So my first thought is they're always holding the lightsaber. Why are any of them holding it? I would walk and I would have dual lightsabers. I would just move them with the force and have them spinning. So you're not even moving your arms. You're not even doing anything. Your lightsabers are just fighting. So you'd get in a
Yeah.
fight and you're just moving the lightsabers with your mind. So like forget about your arms. Like so I'd have a Jedi walking in and you'd see his lightsabers light up and they're dragging across the floor and he's not even touching
Oh
them,
man.
and you start tapping them and then he'd come to fight you and just be using the
Scott, I
force,
will
dude.
I will raise you one. I out edged that in a Star Wars RP several years ago where I made a Sith. Are you familiar with Kingdom Hearts?
No, not really. I know the
Okay,
name,
cool.
but I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no. Because there's a boss in Kingdom Hearts who uses like 7 spears
Mm-hmm.
and he wields them telekinetically. And I
Yeah,
just had that. I just had the Sith with 7 saber staffs. He just
yeah.
telekinetically like fought people
That's
with
what
it.
I was
It
like.
was
They haven't
so
done that in the movie yet, and I'm like, that should be your bad guy, dude. He doesn't even like he doesn't even stress with his hands or whatever. It's like, so
yeah. I mean,
that
it's
would
a
be like
bit
ferocious. You know
silly.
what I mean? This guy just walks in, his
Eh,
lightsabers light up, and he starts fighting you, and he's not even like sweating. You know?
I don't know. I like the that it's it's part of the sort of it's one of those
Hey,
like
Martin,
core
thanks for making
concepts.
it.
It's part of those core concepts where the lightsaber fights are meant to be sword fights,
Hmm.
because it's meant to be evocative of the
And
samurai
I agree with that,
films.
but at a certain
Yeah.
point, you're meant to break the rules too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. It should be like a one-off thing, and
Yeah, yeah. Just
but
like
it should
when
be
you,
explained why it's a one-off thing
yeah, absolutely.
because it's all about like the focus and mental
Yeah, whatever.
discipline.
There's a million reasons he could be the one
Yeah.
who does, but or she or
Actually,
whoever. But
one of the things I've been doing in my Star Wars RPG stuff recently, which is really funny, because in the expanded universe, Star Wars actually where oh yeah, there's silicon-based life forms. There's like
wait,
sentient. There's
yeah, wait.
there's
Martin says,
sentient
I
crystals.
see AE is one of those people who would write their overpowered self-insert OC for fan fiction. Oh yes, and I would also put him in a role-playing game, and wherever else would be the best character ever.
It's to be fair, anyone who's a creator, we've all done that. It's one of those maturing processes where
Yeah,
you do it. We've all let he who is without sin write the first critique.
yeah.
I've done really bad versions of that.
All my characters are always OP in my mind for sure. They get all the benefits.
I actually like to do underpowered OCs because people really enjoy engaging with it.
Yeah,
Like it kind of plays in the weird like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure rules where they're like, oh, that power is like really weak on paper, but then I'm like, yeah, but it depends on how you apply it.
that's the fun in a if you're doing an RPG or something. I very
Mm,
much agree. Like, I'll tend towards that, like because I do go for the personality and the stuff. Because it's
mm.
just an RPG, I'm more interested in the story than some crazy character, you know. But if it's fun, I'll go the power route or whatever. You know what I mean? But in the
Yeah.
most part, yeah, I don't. It's for fun, you know. It's like what makes a cool group dynamic. Like I
Mm.
read the Soulbound book and I didn't
Ooh.
read it, so I read the first stuff, and I was flipping through the
Yeah.
character creation, and I would do a Caradron. I can never say it, but
Caradron
yeah,
Overlord. Yeah.
the ones that repair the stuff. So they got the big balloon on their back, but
Hmm.
then they repair
Yep.
the
Yep.
ship. I'm like, okay, that would be my character, and so he would be like keeping the
Okay. Yeah.
ship all up and repaired, and I'm like, that would be the one I would make.
Ooh, actually, speaking of RPGs, I'm quickly going to shill my show. Remember, viewers, it's been a couple of months since an update, but there is a 40k RPG actual play podcast that I ran. I'm still uploading episodes because I'm a shit audio editor. Called the Tritone Gambit. Do go
Really,
give
I
that a
didn't even
listen.
know that. You
Yeah,
should have brought that up
it's
earlier.
it's on Spotify. It's on Podbean, iTunes. If you go via Podbean, you should be able to see like I actually got actual custom artwork for the characters commissioned, so that's all there. It's actually on the on my YouTube channel, the Team Armchair General channel. I've been interacting with you guys on. There's a couple episodes there. So yeah, if you want to listen to some me and my friends take on 40k, go for it.
Huh. Yeah, interesting.
I
I mean,
will. I
this is the
will. For
first time we really
Yep.
talked, and so I didn't know
Yeah.
that either.
I will admit, first couple of episodes are rough. As I said, I'm not enough. I'm not a.
Bro,
I'm not a professional.
you're
By
talking to Mr. Rough live stream here, buddy.
hey man, you don't have like scratchy, shitty microphones.
this is this is Captain Rough. I'm like, I'll keep working on improving and
Hmm.
get more prepared and whatever.
But yes, I have dragged you over your time limit, and I believe you have actually finished now. So let's
I
see
did
this.
finish. I know. I
Let's see
like
the
people
before
came
and
in. There's
after.
like 8 people now, of course, and
Yeah,
we're getting ready to leave. And I'm like, oh, I should be like start another one and
yeah, you
like
can start another one. Sure, go for it.
take it. Well, I got to work on this for something.
Ooh,
And
that's
I
really that's is that a blood letter?
no, I think it's a 3D
Or,
print.
oh wow, yeah, I was gonna say.
And so it's like put together, and
Oh,
I got to do it.
that's a nice conversion. I believe that the basis for that is a Sangor sorcerer. Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, so it's pretty cool. So I'm like, I'm going to work on that. They're black and white, so I'm going to do a big, just scene in the back and all kinds of stuff.
Ooh,
So,
or go full Sin City with it,
oh
like
yeah,
black
there's a
and white
couple
with
things.
this.
I bought some new brushes because I'm like, I got to get some more. Wait, I got to see. Everyone's talking right now. Um, for my current RP character, his OP abilities come at the cost of a fragment of his soul, so he can only use it a certain amount of times before it eventually kills him. That's kind of cool.
I mean, it works. As someone who's been a DM for a lot of things, my knee jerk reaction is that sounds a bit edgy, but that can work if you actually play it
I
into the role
usually,
play
I
and go
think,
for it.
like
Yeah.
old school D&D. If you had to do it right now, I'd probably make like a ranger character. I think
Don't. They
I'd probably do
they've
ranger
messed
because I
up.
want the pet.
They messed up Ranger so bad.
Did they?
Yeah, fifth edition Ranger is really weak. It needs a lot of DM. Like your DM has to work with you. Basically, one of the ways to fix it is just give him favorite terrain everywhere.
Okay.
Like don't specify a single favorite terrain, because then if the campaign's not happening there, you're useless.
See, I don't even know how it plays anymore. You know what I mean? Because I'm still
Hmm.
used to roll 3d6 and get your stat, and then you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean
So I'm
it's
sure
become a
I'll.
lot more. It's become a lot more accessible for new players.
Yeah.
That's probably the single honest thing I can say about it.
Yeah. I used to like big convoluted rule sets.
Hmm. Now you just need the simple things.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
totally.
just a lot
Do
less
you
hassle.
what do you got going? This is like late for you, isn't it? You got stuff going
Not
on you
really.
need to
It's
attend
not,
to?
no, no. It's only coming up to 8 o'clock, and I've got nothing.
You
I
gotta.
my normal Monday night D&D games actually every other week, so I'm good, man.
Oh,
I
so
can go
you
another
do
two
play you
hours.
play D&D right now, huh?
Yes, I play and run several things.
You do.
Mhm.
What do you play and run?
I am playing in a D&D game that's making use of the Theros book, so the Magic the Gathering ancient Greek setting.
Okay.
Having a lot of fun with that. My DM is a lovely, patient fellow who endures my shenanigans from the get go, because I played an amnesiac character. So I literally walked up to him and said,
Yeah.
"Here, I am a Warforged druid. Cool. What's your backstory? I don't know."
Like I was I DM sometimes, but it was mostly one friend of
Yeah.
mine who liked to DM a lot, and I almost feel like I should call him and apologize for the hell I used to put him through.
Yeah. And then I'm in a regular, like more traditional D&D game, just doing a dungeon crawl through the Tales of the Yawning Portal, which is just a collection of dungeons.
Okay.
That's fun. I'm running a D&D game using the Waterdeep Dragon Heist, because I've got some new people to D&D. So I'm
Okay.
actually walking them through everything. And Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a really good, like a first adventure, because it's
It's
urban.
water deep,
If
like the old school water deep.
Yeah, it's still around.
Okay.
It's still there. It's now like the year is like 1492 though. So yeah,
Oh
Waterdeep's still
wow.
around. And it's all like, oh yeah, someone's embezzled 500,000 gold. Find it.
Okay.
And it's a nice adventure for lower levels, because if you get into trouble, you can just call the police to help you.
Yeah. You're right because you're in the city. That's a good way to do
Mm.
it, though. You can.
Yeah, it's a very nice thing. And if the players enjoy it, and if the group comes together, because sometimes they don't, different personalities.
Oh
But
yeah,
if everyone keeps
absolutely.
playing off each other really well, the next step after we finish Waterdeep is I'm taking them to Ravenloft, because I freaking love Ravenloft,
Okay,
and
you
I've
do.
never run it. and I'm going to throw them into Strahd, and it's going to be funny because it's a group of a dragonborn, a dwarf, a gnome, and a halfling.
Oh yeah, Dragonborns
So
are always cool to me because I always like
yeah.
lizard men back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, lizardmen were my first Warhammer Fantasy army.
Okay, I can see that.
Just I was a kid. Dinosaurs are cool. What more do you need? You
King
know.
Crimson also King Crimson's into the games too. Yeah,
Hmm.
Archer Adept. Thanks for Archer Adept. Thanks for making it.
Oh man. And I'm also running a the Fantasy Flight game, Star Wars game, a Clone Wars one,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and my players are being very lovely with that so far.
I could see. I was intrigued by the little bit by the whole Star Wars RPG thing or whatever. I was like,
Mhm.
oh gosh, I could see it because you got that whole unlimited world thing we just talked about. You know.
Mm. Actually, the rules for it, which Fancy Flight did like a setting agnostic version of the rules called Genesis, it's actually really good because it's not numbers.
Gotcha.
Um, it's a lot more narrative. So you roll dice, and you have like negative dice and good dice, and then the good dice has stuff like advantage and success, and then the negative
Okay.
dice has failure and threat, and then threats cancel advantages, and failure cancels successes, and then whichever one
Yeah.
you have more of, that's what happens. So you can get, for
Okay.
example, failure and advantage. So you fail what you're doing, but something good still happens. So you're trying to break into a house. You don't break open the lock, but no one hears you.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, that's
Uh,
cool. That makes it for interesting things to
yeah,
happen for
yeah.
sure.
Wolf Lord Lewis. They have actually. I was not going to say they haven't killed any clones. I'm actually wrong. Last session, they got a mission to take a experimental separatist dreadnought supership. Basically, my way of foreshadowing their weapon development tech. It was basically a separatist cruiser with like a mini version of the Death Star laser on it, like one of the coherent beams. I know, non-canon, stupid shit. I'm a DM. I can get away with this stuff. And due to the player who plays the actual Jedi Knight not being there previous session to make the battle plan, his Padawan, canonically like a teenage girl, was basically left in charge of planning the op, and she did, and she's got about 100 clones killed just during the landing because they were in the like gunships flying at the shipyard, and half of them got shot down, and she was just like, oh god, no. But the party is quite eclectic. We've got a clone trooper commando. We have a Jedi Knight who is a Mira Luca, who is part of the Agri Corps, and he's got like a seeing eye wolf. We have his Padawan, who is a Acadian, which is one of the pale humans, and we have a senator and their intern, who is a smuggler, and that's the party.
Oh, that's a cool way to do it, like a smuggler and intern. I
Well,
mean,
It's the
senator
smuggler
and
is
intern.
lying
That's
low.
kind of a
Yeah,
cool, like, yeah, you could see some stuff.
yeah, yeah, and the smuggler is like lying low, so they took a job as an intern, so they're just
Yeah,
working
yeah, no,
alongside
that's a
this
good. I like that
senator.
cover. That's totally
Yeah,
cool.
because it's in the Clone Wars. I like the first adventure was, oh yeah, convince this neutral planet to side with the Republic against the Separatists, and so giving each of the story types something to do. So now we had like the combat heavy session for the Clone Trooper and the Jedi, and then we've got the next thing coming up, which will be we're actually doing like a little casual day for the characters. So it's going to be like downtime, everyone getting therapy because they need it, and then after that it'll be like the Jedi storyline about something or other. We've talked about it. I believe that we've established that Clone Trooper is not going to order 66 them. like, that was one of the first things I talked with him about. I was like, "Do you want to go this into PvP?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "That is fine." But yeah, that's the Star Wars game I've been running, and it's been amusingly fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a clamber wolf. So this seeing eye wolf is 7 feet tall, built like a gorilla with a canine head.
Oh gosh, that's what I
But yeah,
always loved about those games. It's just that creativity.
mm,
You just, anything
yes,
you can dream up or make up.
yeah, yes. Play. It's great when you have a group who really embraces that.
Yeah,
But
like that's what
at the same time, the group
I
needs to
played
sort
with
of
a few
embrace
friends.
the
You know, there was
same.
only like three, sometimes four of us,
Hmm,
and that was really good because everyone's kind of on the same page. You know what I mean?
yeah, you need a group that buys into the fiction, the story you're telling as a
Hmm.
DM.
Yeah, that's it. They have to be like doing what, like the overall story. How's your
Yeah,
character playing in it? And then it's just like, all right, cool.
there's there's also been a lot of lately like like discussion about stuff like, oh, in a game, what is the focus? Is it the DM story or the characters? And I'm like, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people are like, the DM shouldn't tell their story. That if you want to do that, write a book. You are there, to facilitate the players telling their stories. And I'm like, the players aren't telling a story. The players are playing characters and having character development. But
yeah.
a lot of players aren't very proactive, at least at the
No,
start.
and I think
Not
there's
it,
a
that sounds
the
probably
really
bad, but I mean, like,
creative type. And I okay, so I guess now it would be it's more accessible and there's more people
mm,
around and the internet lets people in. You know, I think
mm,
maybe back, especially when I was playing, you were kind of making do with what friends you had kind of deal. And depending how I had a lot of creative friends at least, so it
yeah,
worked out well. You know what I mean? So
mhm,
everyone's like, oh, they so the people who they were my friends because they were into that
yeah,
stuff. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like,
yeah.
all right,
Yeah, but I mean, like when I've been playing, a lot of people are like, this is my character, this is what they do, and I'm like, okay, what what do they want, you
yeah,
know? And there's a fair few amount of players who do have, you have character goals. That's perfectly fine, cool, awesome. I love you. Some people aren't just at that stage, and they're like, I've created this character, and they will react to situations. And as a DM, you
I
need at
know
least an
my
initial
character.
story to give a situation for players to work off of, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna read more of the Soulbound. I want even if I don't play, I'm gonna make a character for it.
Mm. It looks interesting and fun. I like the very sort of Norse mythology setup of Age of Sigmar.
I'm just curious about it, and they have some cool things, and I
Mm.
love the. I just it's the part of the reason I bought it is I wanted to catch up on that world in like a weird way. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
RPG book, I'll dig it because I'll get to
yeah,
see like what ships and what
mm,
powers and you know what I mean.
yeah. Um, but there's also whenever you're playing an RPG, your players have to know, because a lot of RPGs have a certain theme or story type attached to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're playing D&D, there's a wide variety of kind of like themes and games and stuff you can
Oh,
do, but
absolutely.
it'll
Yeah.
be but going in and the group is playing D&D is very different from going in and the group is playing World of Darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you're playing D&D, okay, you can kind of know what you're in for, uh, and it's going to be very different from playing Vampire the Masquerade.
For sure, I can see that.
And you can still get them on print, print on demand. Is the old Fantasy Flight 40K RPGs had some really fun stuff. The
You know,
rules
I was
were
kind of
not
bummed I
properly
missed those.
tested
Yeah, I was
because,
kind of I seen them coming out at the
yeah,
time, but I had missed the.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I just wasn't into it at
yeah,
the time, and I was like, I kept even back then. I was like, maybe I should have picked one of these up because they're kind of
yeah.
cool.
They are cool. The rules are a bit of a mess. The way they're written,
Okay.
as it's, for example, in Death Watch, which is the Space Marine one, um, quickest way to kill a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor: play a Space Wolf Assault Terminator, Assault Marine, run in and caber toss the bastard. You can't do damage to him, but you can throw him far enough that the falling damage will kill him.
Awesome.
That's why it's a little bit ridiculous like that, and you need a DM on their toes, because it's based off the Dark Heresy system, which that's what I use in my podcast. That's what we're running, playing. As stupid as stuff got, but players had fun and it wasn't too outlandish, so whatever. But two of the things, one of the best of that series of RPGs, I will sit down and say, only War, the Imperial
Oh,
Guard one. That's the Imperial Guard RPG.
yeah.
Where if you're going in to play that, if you're any of you in the audience are thinking of playing or running it, remember the main character is the regiment, not the individual characters, because they're gonna die. They're gonna die horrible, and it's gonna be amazing and awesome.
Oh,
because
that's cool. So it is a little more like, okay, interesting. I didn't know it was like that. That's kind of cool.
I mean, you have the fate points you can spend to cheat death, but you only have like one of them, and they
Yeah,
don't.
so
You never get more.
someone's gonna
Yeah,
get it.
and it's 40K. It's this is the kind of setting where it's like that.
Yeah,
Um, like I don't go out of my way to kill the play. I don't specifically say "fuck you, die."
yeah, yeah.
But for example, what I always do is part of the create character creation in Only War is you actually all sit down and create the regiment together.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So, and it's got a lot of options for some really wild, cool things. You can play a super heavy armored regiment, so all your characters are the crew of one Baneblade. And
Oh,
at,
yeah,
at that point, look up all the submarine movies and just run a game like that, like The Hunt for Red October, but you're in a
yeah,
Baneblade. It's really cool stuff. There's rules for being Rough Rider regiments, and you're riding velociraptors or motorcycles. Um,
yeah.
you can all be in sentinels. You can be just generic line infantry. You can be combat engineers. You can be drop troopers. Paratrooping in.
Wow, they really
Um,
did let you do a lot of stuff then.
oh, they have every. Off the top of my head, I've ran Only War several times. The different regiments we've had the Lascarians, which were almost like the Teeth First, like super scouts,
Yep,
camo cloaks, light armor. Every single trooper had a long glass, like the sniper rifle variant,
yep,
just as standard equipment, and you just had a regiment of those.
yeah.
Uh, Another one was they were all battle scarred. They were all partially cybernetic stormtroopers. They all had like massive like Roman style shields and grenade launchers, and they would just march in and storm positions. Um, we had a Mad Max regiment known as the Cockritter Marauders, who were like super pious, but they would loot everything, uh, and they were totally hopped up on combat drugs.
Yeah.
Um, we had a tank regiment, so people, the whole party was in one Lehman Ross, and they just got absolutely wrecked.
What is it?
Um,
Oh, it just made me think of a tank
mhm.
game. Was it a tank game? Twilight 2000. I remember that game.
I don't remember that at all. That doesn't sound
Yeah,
familiar.
that was some little obscure one. Twilight 2000. Yeah, that was like some. It was like a post-apocalyptic game. Gosh, I have to look. I
Okay.
probably still have the book for that. I gotta go look for a lot of my books.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, and one of the things I do in the first mission of an Only War campaign, some of you might say this is unfair, valid, everyone different strokes for different folks, is the first mission is always something they're not suited for. Because the Imperial War Machine is unfair.
Yeah, that's a good way to
So
bring it about.
So, for an example, I was rolling up and behind the scenes, like, we're playing a crusade, you're invading a planet. Okay, the specialized, like the Harakoni Warhawk, the Elysian Drop Troopers, the guys designed to land first and seize a beachhead, um, they got held up taking the orbital defenses. They're in space stations.
Yeah.
So, next best thing, they grabbed the scout regiment, gave them parachutes, packed them into Marauder bombers, and sent them and
That's
sent
okay.
them
That
to
is
make the
actually fun. That would be,
yeah, and
because it would
sent them
catch
to
me
do
off guard. You're
planetfall.
thinking you're going to go in for this type of thing, and
Yeah,
you're preparing for it, and you get, yeah, that would be kind
yeah,
of interesting.
yeah, and you get sent in to do planetfall missions. And my players have always dug these kind of slightly alternate intros.
Yeah,
They really enjoyed that. And I'm rolling because in Only War, when you're one of the guardsman classes, you automatically have an NPC buddy, so you have someone who the squad knows who you can play when your character dies.
yeah, good.
And I'm like, they all jump out. They're not paratrooper trained, so they're all rolling dice to see if they can use the grav shoots. You've got guys being sucked into jet engines. Yeah, exactly, Wolf Lord Lewis. The Imperial War Machines send like the ice troopers to desert planets and the desert troopers to ice planets. It's unfair. It's brutal. It's mean.
Yeah,
They want to be fair. That scout regiment won the mission. They achieved their objectives. They landed. They managed to join up, organize themselves, and storm the defenses at like a spaceport. Um, Someone tried to hijack one of the local war machines as another player captured one of the 88 flak guns, and then they saw an enemy war machine, so they shot them. So we almost had a PvP kill, blue on blue, and they had to spend like their once a game luck reroll to miss, so they didn't kill each other. And we're like, that's ridiculous. That's 40k. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Another example is the last time I ran Only War, they wrote up the Albion Line Breakers, which was proper like a siege trench regiment, a bit like the Death Corps of Krieg, but British flavored, because of course, um, they're designed to hold trenches to besiege things. They got assigned to D-Day. They got sent in on kite in Gorgons to take a beach, like literally take a beach, and they're like, "We're not trained for this. Half our troops don't even know how to swim because they came from like
Yeah,
highlands."
yeah.
But again, the players, they dug it because like this is how the Imperium works. They throw men at problems. They don't
Yeah,
match
yeah.
things
That's
up
a meat
always.
grinder.
Yeah, and they were taking this beachhead, and I was like, oh, the Vox operator hears some sort of chatter, and they didn't respond to that. They didn't like try to jam it. They didn't try to understand what's happening. So they were like, we've taken the bunkers, we've taken these beachhead, we've driven the enemy away. What's that whistling sound? As like 5 Earthshaker rounds just land on their heads.
Yeah.
And it killed the party, but they all spent fate to survive, but the rest of their platoon was decimated. And they were like, oh fuck, oh fuck. And I was like, I mean, that's 40k, and like a lot of them are 40k players, and they were like, yeah, no, that's very that's very in
Yeah.
universe. We're not gonna, but you see what I mean, where it's like you're telling the story of a regiment in a war zone and how like
Yeah,
its fortunes come
that
and
makes it
go.
interesting. That's an interesting concept to me because I would like that. Because then you don't lose your character you've been developed the whole
No,
time, but you lose a bond. It's like a little different.
yeah, you lose the bodies and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
it was
but you
really great
still
fun.
get the what you're still building. The
Yeah, you're still having
whatever.
a story. Yeah, and yeah, things like that, and people dig it. But that's the only war RPG, and as I said, it's got so many cool options. Like as you're building your regiment, so many things from like, oh, you can give all your fighters are just start off with like double plasma pistols because you come from like a gang world.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you can mess around with like the uniforms and stuff, and you have things like, oh, your commanding officer is a maverick, so everyone's used to getting shot because he's always like attack, attack, attack.
Yeah.
I do recommend them. Death Watch is obviously the Space Marine one, and it's specifically focused on the Death Watch, so it's much more sort of the RPG group of different chapters being brought together and being sent on missions. It works better as an RPG than your all one Space Marine squad. It gives you a lot more autonomy in what you're doing. Dark Heresy is the Inquisition one, which is also fun. That's the one I ran first. And then there's the one I've never run because you need a god tier group of players, and that's Black Crusade. That's the evil one
Oh, interesting.
because it encourages PvP. Your character can gain blessings from your god by actively fucking with another character's goals.
That's pretty
Martin the Great,
funny. That's
yeah.
messed up.
Martin, yes, the old Guardsman party, yes, that's very much an influence when I run Only War. Look it up on 1D4chan. They have all the story written up there. Really good story time about like Dark Heresy and running 40k RPGs. Really fun read.
God, I'm catching up on everything with everybody. When I have these chats, I'm like, yeah, this is good. Especially like that's cool that you like RPGs because that's one of the things I would just like, and because I haven't played, you miss out on a lot of concepts like that whole concept of kind of you have a legion type deal with the troops. Like I never
Mhm.
played anything like that, but it would totally appeal to me because I love the fact that people get wiped out, but yet you're
Yeah.
not losing your only character type thing.
And also in RPG, you get to explore a lot more really fun little detail things. Like in Black Crusade, when you're playing a Chaos Space Marine, because yeah, you can, you actually have to roll what parts of your power armor work, because
Oh
most of it is
yeah,
broken.
yeah, that's cool.
And although to be fair, I don't think anyone who plays Black Crusade doesn't choose the nuclear reactor to be one of the things that works, because your power armor running out of power after 8 hours and needing to be recharged
You're like you're
sucks.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like, all right, I'm going to be sitting recharging for the next day. You guys keep going.
But there's a lot of really fun ideas behind it, and there's all the rules for like demon rituals and summoning, and it's all really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
The problem is always, yeah, playing it sounds fun. Running it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
As a
My
DM, you need to have the plot, you
like
need to have all the
right now,
NPCs.
my role playing game is trying to grow a little empire. It's like
That's cool.
it's like it is my game. I'm like, this is it's like real life. Real life to me is one of those video games where all they do is send wave after wave until finally one takes you down. So like, that's
Yeah,
the game I'm playing right now, and in the meantime, I got to build a little empire. I'm like, all right, let's
mm,
do this.
build your little multimedia thing.
Yeah, build my little empire.
I need to admit, the artwork you're currently working on, it's really giving me like the old school Codex picture vibes.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I never even. I mean, I'm sure I looked at one, but the ones that had the artwork in it, I never looked at those books because I think I kind of stopped playing right around when they were coming out,
Mm,
and I never got into those hard. Mine were mostly like second edition is probably as far as I made it. Is as far as I made it. I've ever played
yeah.
past second.
Mm.
And I
Actually,
seen
give
them.
me a
I'm like,
second.
oh, I gotta look up some of those pictures because people were saying they had them. I'm like, oh, cool. I need to because I'm sure they were doing a lot of different stuff than I am, so I could, just
Yeah,
brush up on different techniques and whatever they were doing.
yeah, and like some of the old artwork was cool. Here we go.
Yeah, they
Hang on,
40K.
because look what I had underhand.
They always had a lot
Oh
of good
wow, from
stuff.
Gothic magazine.
Oh yeah.
Look at that classic Tyranid artwork.
Oh wait.
Like,
I'm gonna make it a little bigger. Hang on.
Mhm. Look at that spaceship eating a spaceship. I mean, like,
Oh
frankly,
yeah, I
like,
remember that one.
show him on my terrible freaking camera screen.
I
Sorry, it's
remember
bad
that
quality.
one.
Yeah, really nice artwork in there. God damn, and like all the stories.
Well, I am gonna call it a show because the dog is giving me a little barking action. I know he needs something right now. So that was a oh man, I am really enjoying these. So I'm gonna get we're gonna be back at this because I'm trying to get at least like 3 times a week. I want to get into like 3 times a week streaming.
Mm,
So this around this time works really good for me. So I think one of them I kind of learned like for at least for the start, I have to do it when I just have the energy and I feel it. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's like, hey man, just go. You got good energy for it. But I also know that scheduling something is always the better option in a way because then
yeah.
people know, hey, we're going to be doing this. So I'm slightly working my way there. So it's a balance. I'm like trying to get
So
used to it and
for the
then
audience, what is your streaming schedule?
yeah, and so like right now because I'm mostly all doing my own stuff and everything, I can kind of schedule, but it's just hard. So I know Lee and I are doing ones on Wednesdays at like 1, and then I'm gonna do another one during the week at some time, and then one on the weekend maybe later or something. So I'm kind of like that's what I'm kind of doing, and then I know I like having someone with me, and I'm like I think I want to set a time, and then hey, if have a group of people that I can be like, hey, can you make it that time, or you know what I mean, and then like rotate people through and have different stuff. So I'm trying to like build it as I go, and it's been I never wanted to do the whole YouTube thing, so it wasn't
Yeah.
like a thing. But once I started drawing, I'm like, well, I can be streaming it. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I just spent a whole year doing it, I know I'm going to spend another year doing it. Why don't I just be streaming while I'm doing it and see if I can grow anything? So,
Mm.
thanks for everyone who joined. If you do get a chance, please hit that like button and share and all that kind of stuff. It has been helping a lot. So, I notice at a lot of times it's like 9 at night right now, and they will spike my the short YouTube video. So like last night they got it up to like 600 views, and so they do this
Mm.
thing for like an hour and a half sometimes. So I'm like, all right, like I got to keep posting the short every day and like do a live thing and kind of promote it because all that's been helping, and I can see it slowly ramping up. So thank you
Wolf
very
Lord Lewis
much.
already volunteering.
Anything you want to say before we go? Anywhere you want to direct people or anything?
As I've been directing them all over the place, you can find me on Twitter at Hydriatus, Hydriatus. You can find my show on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to your podcast. It's The Tritone Gambit, Tritone. I know the episodes are coming out slow. I'm a bad audio editor. However, if you listen to it and you have an opinion, ping me, let me know. As I said, I've got the raw recordings of the entire campaign done. I'm just really bad at audio editing.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
Hydriatus, I'm also on Instagram, where I share various miniatures and various things I cook.
Yeah, and they've
I
gotten
have
me
a
hungry,
variety of
darn it.
hobbies.
Those are like some of the
I have a
worst. I see
variety of
cooking
hobbies.
pictures and I get all hungry.
I'm also I contribute regularly to Cold Open Stories. If you're a fan of 40k lore fiction and you want to either listen to a fan made audio story or read some curated fan fiction, editors have actually looked over this and given
Yeah,
it a
that stuff
seal
is
of
it's real deal stuff.
quality.
Its quality is really exceptional. I
Yeah,
thought.
just check it out at Cold Open Stories. Really good stuff. Don't just check out mine. Cobra Strike, The Fisherman's Tale, Fear Itself. Check out stories like oh damn, the new audio story they've done, The Hounds of Bedlam, about
See,
chaos
that one I haven't
cultists.
listened to yet, and I'm gonna listen to that one because I heard some
Colin
clips
worked
and I
through
was like, "Oh,
so
that's
much.
good."
Yeah, it's really good. It's yeah, it gets spicy. One of the stories I recommend actually checking out is The Man Who Killed Rogel Dorn. That's
Okay.
a cool one. Just the title alone like
Yeah.
sells you on it. There's some good orc stories on there as well, but you'll have to, you dig
Yeah.
around, see what you like. I will point out that Cold Open Stories does focus a lot more than what we would call the bolter porn that Black Library
Yeah.
produces.
Yeah. They do have. Yeah.
Space Marines are the minority of stories. They recently had like nothing but Eldar stories for an anthology thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a Xenos player and you're missing some representation, go listen, go read.
Yeah.
There's some really quality things out there.
Thanks a lot
And I
for everyone
think that's about
who.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot for everyone who stopped in. Team Armchair General, it was the first time seeing you here, and I really appreciate that. Thanks for the chat. Martin, great that you're back in here. I thank you for coming in. Wolf Lord Lewis, thank you again. Anyone else I happen to be missing? Crimson, I know you were in here for a while. Appreciate that. And I do. So Wednesday is the next stream I'm going to do with Lee. I got so much planning and stuff I got to do. So thanks for real. Thanks for being on this little journey with me. And I got a lot of good stuff going on because of you also. Thanks a ton. And I'm looking forward to more. Hadriatus, can never say it, never will be able to. Appreciate you coming on with me. And we're going to have to do this again. We're going to have like pretty much everyone in the chat has already been on. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have to start having them on again. Like,
Yeah.
talk to everybody. So everyone, you have a good evening or day ahead of you. I'm going
Take
to
care.
hit end stream right now. Ending